individuals to study them in secret, and they must not disclose it to the outside. Moreover, it must be clearly stated that government-run schools are not to study these books or use them for official examinations. Additionally, spread the word that this is merely the learning of craftsmen, and it should be disseminated subtly without making too much noise. This old servant understands. As Zhang Xiaochuan just left the palace, he saw Li Linfu rushing over. He greeted him enthusiastically. I pay my respects to the Prime Minister. What brings you here in such a hurry? Li Linfu smiled. It is all state affairs. I have been busy for the country and cannot afford to rest, so I have grown accustomed to hurrying. I hope the Marquis of Shuzhou does not find it amusing. Zhang Xiaochuan secretly gave a thumbs up, thinking, look at his way with words, so impressive. He didn't say anything useful but still managed to boast a bit, making it seem like I am the lazy one. He replied, then I shall not disturb the Prime Minister with your official duties. Farewell. Farewell. Chapter 302. Press conference and arena battle on this day, before the market opened. The West Market was already bustling with crowds. People were gathered at the entrance of the market, waiting for it to open. As today was the press conference held by these wealthy merchants targeting Zhang Xiaochuan. Outside a shop in the market, a platform had already been set up, with a simple wooden arch in front of it. A long plaque hung above, like a banner, with red background and golden characters written in brush, stating Joint Press Conference of 9 major merchants. Behind the platform was the shop, and there were already people inside, all from major merchant houses in the West Market, which had connections, so their early entry was not surprising. He said to the heads of the other 8 major merchants. It has been communicated from above that the court will not participate in the ban on vouchers, so we can only rely on our means in the market from here on. Wang Yuanbao remained indifferent. In my opinion, the ban on vouchers by the court is unnecessary. With our influence, 90% of the goods in the capital come from our merchant houses. As long as we do not use vouchers, they cannot help but fail. He originally wanted to advise them not to take it lightly, but since the press conference was about to start, he did not want to dampen morale at this moment. He shifted the topic. Let us just be aware of this matter. Everything else will proceed as originally planned. He led the other 8 to the press conference venue, but just as they stepped outside, they saw a group of people bustling around across from their venue, and it was none other than Zhang Xiaochuan. With a cheerful demeanor, He approached and initiated a conversation. I've met the Marquis of Shuzhou, but I wonder what you were doing here? Zhang Xiaochuan showed no signs of concealment and replied, I just thought your press conference might be a bit lonely, so I invited a few people to hold a press conference across from you. It'll be livelier this way, won't it? Well, thank you for that. But I see you're just now setting up the stage. With just half an hour before the market opens, I fear you might not make it in time. He remarked. You don't need to worry about that. Just be concerned that our press conference might overshadow yours. That wouldn't look good for you. He added with a smile. He maintained his cheerful demeanor, while Wang Yuanbao stopped pretending and retorted, Kid, don't get too cocky. You have no idea what we have up our sleeves. If you knew, you might lose the courage to hold a press conference at all. Those products you gave us are already outdated. Zhang Xiaochuan remained unfazed and called out to the people behind him, come meet a few of the family heads, lest they think I don't know what good things they have. Upon seeing a few individuals approaching from behind, Wang Yuanbao exclaimed, Wang Yuanqing Do Yao? What are you doing with that kid from the Zhang family? Do Yao replied, head of the Wang family, please show some respect. This is the Marquis of Shuzhou. Who in the capital dares to disrespect him? You shouldn't be addressing him so casually. Wang Yuanbao was momentarily at a loss for words. He then said, let us not change the subject. What are you doing with the Marquis of Shuzhou? Also, I haven't seen you around the family business lately. Are you perhaps? He wanted to accuse them of betraying the family, but couldn't bring himself to say it. Do Yao responded, we are simply choosing the side that benefits the family. When you are wiped out, we can still lead the family to rise, preventing its downfall. Seeing Do Yao's audacity, couldn't hold back anymore. All right, you're quite impressive. But what is the use of merely talking? Let us see the real skills in our products. Only those who can capture the market will have the last laugh. If you lose this time, you will be expelled from the clan. Do Yao was not one to back down. Same goes for both of us. Zhang Xiaochuan was setting up a steel-structured folding and assembling stage, and the installation was progressing rapidly. He watched helplessly, hoping for his own products. At that moment, Wang Yuanbao said, family head, it seems like this might turn out poorly. Those lowly offspring born from concubines might be easily crushed. But they are now a big problem for us, and we are well aware of what goods we have. He looked at Wang Yuanbao and felt a surge of helplessness. He had initially been confident about selling across the land, but it turned out to be a case of having unreliable allies. Now he realized that knowing Zhang Xiaochuan was tough to deal with was of little use. Nevertheless, he had to stabilize morale. No need to worry too much. Most of our products have been improved upon after learning the techniques from the Zhang family. Even if they know, they won't be able to produce them. Even if they figure out how to manufacture them, it won't be that fast. Brother is right. So let us prepare quickly. The market is about to open. As the drum signaling the market opening sounded, the eager crowd outside the West Market quickly surged in. When they arrived at the periphery of the platform set up by the 9 major businesses, everyone appeared a bit bewildered. A person dressed in gray shorts asked, what is that platform over there? Immediately, a warm-hearted individual in a blue shirt replied, isn't it written on the sign? It's the Commercial Alliance Conference of a certain technology group. The gray-clothed man questioned, what a strange name you mentioned. Are you making that up? The man in blue rolled up his sleeves and said, "Hey, I have quite a temper. I actually received formal education. And if it weren't for my scholarly identity, you wouldn't want to test me." At that moment, someone intervened to mediate, saying, "Stop arguing." Although what this blue-clad gentleman said is odd, it is not without merit. It indeed says those words. And it seems they have come to compete with the 9 major businesses. The gray-clothed man responded, "In that case, it looks like there will be quite a spectacle today. I need to hurry to find a good spot." Without caring about the blue-clad gentleman or the mediator, he quickly ran off to secure a position. And the two followed closely behind. Soon, others also rushed to grab spots, and before long, the spacious street was crowded. Everyone tacitly surrounded the platforms of the 9 major businesses and the technology group in the center. Do-Yi looked on helplessly. This had indeed turned into a competition. But it was still uncertain who would prevail. First, he needed to maintain a strong presence. Do-Yi stood up first, bowed to the crowd below, and then said a few words of welcome. However, Zhang Xiaochuan remained silent, quietly watching him perform, indicating that it was his turn to go first. Seeing this, Do-Yi felt more at ease. He liked it when his opponent acted arrogantly, as once he presented his offerings, there would be no more involvement from Zhang Xiaochuan. Do-Yi interjected, "Since the Marquis of Shuzhou is being courteous, let me embarrass myself. Come here." As he spoke, he waved his hand, and a servant came forward with a tray and basin, which contained white powder, gray cloth, black liquid, and a basin of clear water. Zhang Xiaochuan thought, surely, this is going to demonstrate cleaning products, but with just one bottle of black liquid that looks like soy sauce, this isn't impressive. Indeed, Do-Yi began. "Ladies and gentlemen, please look. This is the improved soap powder from my family's business." The crowd below gasped in admiration. This is actually soap powder. How white it is. Look, you can't see any granules. It should be very fine to use. Only Zhang Xiaochuan and those around him remained expressionless, showing no reaction. Do-Yao muttered quietly, "How dare they bring this out? I can hardly hold back my laughter." Zhang Xiaochuan said very seriously, "You must hold it in. If you really can't, go behind the stage to laugh." Do-Yao replied, "I can't hold it in anymore. I'm going to laugh in the back." Saying this, he dashed off to the back of the stage. Do-Yi noticed the enthusiastic response from the crowd below and knew he had secured this round. Seeing that Do-Yao had already left the stage, it seemed he was looking for a way to cope, indicating that today might be quite promising. He then pressed his hands down towards the crowd and said, "All right, everyone, listen to me. Next, I will introduce our soap powder in detail. As you can see, this soap powder is obviously whiter and finer than before. I want to say that not only does it look better, but it also works better. But just how good it is, let me keep you in suspense. I will first explain how our exceptionally fine soap powder is made and what processes have been improved. First, there is the drying process." Do-Yi shared a lot of information, and the audience listened attentively. Despite the dry content, they were quite engaged, which shows how limited entertainment was in ancient times. Essentially, he discussed the improvements made to the drying process. Previously, it relied on natural drying. But the maturity of the soap pod is only for a short period, so it was completely dependent on the weather. If the weather was good during the harvest, the yield would be high, quality good, and cost low. If the weather was bad, everything would be subpar. However, the improved process now involves drying using a rotating drum, which not only increases quantity and speed, but also ensures better quality. In addition to drying, the grinding process has also been improved. Previously, the soap powder was produced by cutting it into pieces, then crushing it, and finally grinding it into powder using a stone mill, which was very slow. One person could only produce a few pounds in a day. After the improvement, all of this has been turned into a purely mechanical operation, including a rotating blade similar to a blender, which, according to Do-Yi, allows one person to easily produce hundreds of pounds in a day. Zhang Xiaochuan clearly remembers that Do-Yi was particularly proud when he reached this point and even provocatively glanced at him. They indeed have reason to be proud. Having developed these innovations in just a few months since acquiring the machinery is quite remarkable. Unfortunately, there is someone here who can cheat. After introducing the process innovations, Do-Yi didn't miss the chance to take a jab at Zhang Xiaochuan. "What does the Marquis of Shuzhou think of my improvements in soap powder production?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied nonchalantly, "I knew all this long ago. It doesn't pique my interest at all. If it weren't for the fact that you offended me, I wouldn't bother coming to play house with you." To avoid further conflict, Zhang Xiaochuan cooperatively praised, "Remarkable, truly remarkable. Please continue to share what effects it has." The audience urged, "Do Gong, hurry up, we're waiting." Do-Yi responded and began demonstrating the effects, explaining while he operated, which involved placing soy sauce on cloth and then washing it. The washing was indeed clean, but in this day and age, soy sauce doesn't contain any pigments, so washing it clean isn't a big deal. Do-Yi also mentioned that this soap powder is over 50% better than the previous version for washing clothes, hands, bathing, and washing hair. The audience was already excited, similar to live streaming sessions in later times, shouting out for the price. Do-Yi smiled widely and said, "All right, everyone, please quiet down. We guarantee a sufficient supply, and I'm sure you're all eager to know, what price does such fine soap powder sell for? Let me reveal it to you. Everyone is familiar with buying soap powder. Lower quality sells for 8 per pound, medium quality for 21, and high quality, which is generally hard to find, usually costs around 50 per pound. Now what do you think of the quality of our product today?" Someone in the crowd shouted, "Top quality, the best quality." Dou-yi followed up and said, what this audience member said is right. This is better than the best. So, how much do you all think we should sell this even better soap powder for? Without waiting for anyone to respond, Dou-yi answered his own question. Let me tell you, this excellent soap powder is only priced at. He paused for a moment, took a deep breath, scanned the crowd with a round of eye contact to build suspense, and then suddenly exclaimed loudly, 10 coins. Immediately, someone in the crowd shouted, Master Dou, you're so noble. Such a great product at such a low price. Today is truly a lucky day. Dou-yi was very pleased with this compliment and looked warmly at Zhang Xiaochuan. What does Lord of Shuzhou think? Zhang Xiaochuan slowly replied, this is your new product? This is not good enough. Dou-yi initially wanted to refute him, but then realized that Zhang Xiaochuan was deliberately trying to gain the upper hand in conversation to make up for the product's shortcomings. So he decided to turn the tables. According to Lord of Shuzhou, is there even better merchandise? Zhang Xiaochuan said, of course, just wait and see. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and immediately Dou Yao led a line of tall and well-proportioned young women, dressed in high-slit, ink-patterned kipeos, gracefully walking onto the stage with trays. People in ancient times had never seen such a spectacle. This was something only seen in high-priced establishments, and the quality of these young women was truly exceptional. Something that money might not even guarantee. Just the presence of these elegant ladies easily outshone Dou-yi's side. The audience below was drooling, calling out in excitement, with some even shouting long live Lord of Shuzhou. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan could only show a dark expression. Zhang Xiaochuan smiled and said to Dou-yi, what do you think, Master Dou? Dou-yi immediately composed himself, wiped his mouth, and put on a disdainful expression, saying, just trying to attract attention in a dubious manner. Who knows if your product is any good? Well, you better keep an eye on it, Zhang Xiaochuan replied, then turned to the audience and said, everyone, please focus your attention on the tray. Our little ladies are going to get shy now. Zhang Xiaochuan's words caused a burst of laughter, but also directed everyone's gaze to the tray. On it were laid out a white cloth, soy sauce, ink, vegetable leaves, and a bowl of red liquid. The last tray held a bottle of white powder, which actually had some colorful particles inside. Seeing these items, everyone could roughly guess what Zhang Xiaochuan was about to do based on Dou-yi's previous demonstration, prompting a collective gasp. Can all this dirt really be cleaned off the snow-white cloth? If it can, this stuff is simply amazing. Chapter 304. Pure technology and tough work. Seeing what Zhang Xiaochuan had brought out, Dou-yi and his group showed cold expressions, wishing for him to fail. As everyone had guessed, Zhang Xiaochuan had the white cloth spread out on the table and began pouring soy sauce on it, while introducing it. This is soy sauce. Pouring it on. He then proceeded to take each item from the tray, ink, pouring it on. Vegetable leaves, wipe it, apply some force. And finally, this is chicken blood. Steaming hot, pouring it on. After completing these tasks, Zhang Xiaochuan had someone lift the white cloth to show everyone. The cloth was now a patchwork of black, green, red, and brown, completely transformed from a plain white fabric into a colorful one. Zhang Xiaochuan wasn't in a hurry to wash it. Instead, he had two attendants hold it up for the audience to see. Dou-yi sarcastically asked, Lord of Shuzhou, aren't you going to arrange for a wash? Are you planning to just blow the dirt away with the wind? The audience burst into laughter, and Zhang Xiaochuan cheerfully explained, I'm increasing the difficulty here. Once it dries, it will be harder to clean. Only when it's spotless will the effectiveness of our product be demonstrated. Dou-yi replied unhappily, don't speak too confidently, or you might not be able to wrap things up later. Thank you for your kind advice, Dougong. Alright, it's about dry enough now. Come wash it. Zhang Xiaochuan said. As soon as he finished speaking, the two attendants quickly gathered the dirty white cloth, and someone brought over clean water, sprinkling the powder onto the cloth. After a bit of scrubbing, when the cloth was displayed again, it was still a pristine white. The crowd couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. It really is clean. Am I seeing things? But this is too clean, almost like new. Is it just my imagination, or does it look even whiter? Dou-yi and his group turned pale, never expecting it to actually be cleaned, and could only hope that this product was very expensive. At that moment, someone in the audience asked Dou-yi's question, Lord of Shuzhou, what makes this soap powder so miraculous? What is its value? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, since this audience member asked, I will explain. However, this is not soap powder. It is a compound primarily made of phosphates, which I call laundry powder, specifically designed for washing clothes. Dou-yi listened carefully, but he had no concept of what phosphates were, and blurted out, what is this salt? Is this made of salt? Zhang Xiaochuan was momentarily taken aback by the question, and after a pause, he said, you're not wrong to say that. But this salt is not the same as the salt we usually eat. It is called phosphate. As for how this phosphate is made, that is a commercial secret. What I can tell everyone is that it is chemically synthesized, and is a process achieved through scientific technology. Someone in the crowd asked, what is chemistry? Good question. Let me explain, Zhang Xiaochuan said. This explanation is about conveying scientific technology in simple and understandable terms. So what is chemistry? It is. Zhang Xiaochuan recited the textbook definition of chemistry, but seeing the confusion and dazed expressions in the audience, he realized it didn't help. So he switched to a different angle and gave an example. Everyone knows wood, right? Splitting it and grinding it into powder are physical processes. But burning wood is a chemical process. The difference is, Zhang Xiaochuan passionately finished his example, but the audience still looked bewildered and unfocused. Finally, he gritted his teeth and shouted, Just remember, science and technology are very profound and powerful secret skills that can make everyone's work impressive. In short, it's Kuji Yurfanwa. And our product is purely Kuji Yurfanwa, with no natural components at all. Now, you should all understand. Suddenly, someone shouted loudly, startling Zhang Xiaochuan. This shout seemed to act like a spell that lifted a seal, causing more people to have clearer and more determined expressions, shouting along. Technology and hard work. Technology and hard work. Technology and hard work. Very good, seeing your enthusiasm. This wave of technology and hard work is winning big. Zhang Xiaochuan took the opportunity to say. Since everyone is so satisfied with our laundry detergent, I will now announce the purchasing methods and the selling price. The crowd instantly quieted down, holding their breath in anticipation of Zhang Xiaochuan's announcement. Dou Yi silently thought to himself, difficult to produce, limited availability, outrageous price, difficult to produce, limited. However, contrary to expectations, Zhang Xiaochuan said, first, where can you buy our products? Remember this logo, the Great Tang Technology Business Alliance. Any store with this logo will sell our products. Besides the east and west markets of Chang'an, we also have shops in major cities across various provinces. Next comes the price. Before stating the price, he first mentioned the specifications. To meet different needs, we are launching 3 specifications, 1 pound, 5 pounds, and 10 pounds. At that moment, a hostess came up to the stage holding a tray, and on each tray lay a beautifully designed small bag, with nice patterns printed on it, allowing a glimpse of the powder inside, just like Zhang Xiaochuan described. The crowd marveled at the sight, and Zhang Xiaochuan continued. This packaging is exquisite. And this is also our technology and hard work. That's right, it's technology and hard work. Zhang Xiaochuan was very pleased with their reaction and continued. This is called a plastic bag. It's tough, transparent, waterproof, simple to use, and easy to carry. With such a good product and such exquisite packaging, what do you think is a suitable selling price? Zhang Xiaochuan held up the 1-pound pack of laundry detergent and asked the crowd. Of course, it was a rhetorical question. After asking, he continued to answer himself. 101, 81, not 101, not 81. Today I tell you, this 1-pound pack of laundry detergent is only 81. When the audience heard those 2 words, they erupted with excitement. But for Dou Yi, it was undoubtedly a bolt from the blue. Those 2 words hit him like a hammer to the chest. It's over, the soap powder can't even sell for a penny. This isn't right, there must be something I overlooked. Think. Just as everyone was overly excited and Zhang Xiaochuan was about to announce the prices for the other 2 specifications, a discordant voice came through. What if the effectiveness is good? It can only wash clothes. For bathing and shampooing, you still have to buy soap powder. What could have been solved with 1 product now requires 2. Isn't that redundant and unnecessarily spending more money? Immediately, someone echoed. Yeah, if we buy this laundry detergent. Can we only wash clothes? Marquis of Shuzhou, I wonder how this laundry detergent works for bathing and shampooing? Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to retort. What do you mean? Can you only wash clothes with laundry detergent? Are you planning to cook with it instead? But as a businessman, one must be polite to make money. Never mind. I'll endure it. Zhang Xiaochuan tried to maintain a not-so-angry expression and said, as the name suggests, laundry powder is just for washing clothes. But how could I not consider everyone's needs for washing hair and bathing? Please be patient. Once I quote the prices for the other 2 specifications, we can address your bathing concerns. Chapter 305. Technology deeply resonates in strange ways. The crowd finally calmed down again. And Zhang Xiaochuan announced the prices for the other 2 types of laundry products. 31 for a 5-pound package and 51 for a 10-pound package. Doing the math, it came out to 5 per pound, which was much cheaper than soapberry powder, successfully redirecting the attention of the crowd. Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Since we're talking about bathing, you must be familiar with lye. Of course, that's something only the privileged can use. Are you really going to let us use it too? A bystander remarked. That's exactly what I want to do. However, we don't call it lye. We call it soap. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, a hostess came up holding a tray neatly arranged with a few small white squares resembling milk. Zhang Xiaochuan pointed and said, please take a look. This is soap. The person who just spoke, would you like to come up and try it? Although the man hesitated when called onto the stage, the crowd wouldn't let him off easily and pushed him forward. Once on stage, he relaxed and asked, so, how do I try it? Simple, just wash your hands and face with the soap. Follow the demonstration by our hostess, Zhang Xiaochuan instructed. The man nodded in understanding. And Zhang Xiaochuan signaled the hostess to wash her face. Some in the audience suggested that a demonstration was necessary. Indeed, at this time, soap or lye was an unknown entity for most people. The hostess first wet her cheeks with water, then took the soap and gently rubbed it, creating a white foam. She then rubbed her foamy hands gently on her face. The simple act of washing her face had the audience captivated, especially since most of the onlookers were men. They were spellbound until the young woman finished her demonstration. It was Zhang Xiaochuan's reminder that prompted the man on stage to realize he needed to wash his face too. His method was simple and straightforward. After washing, Zhang Xiaochuan invited him to stand at the front of the stage to face the crowd. Everyone, please take a look. Immediately, someone in the audience exclaimed, so white. Is that the same person from earlier? Not only the audience was shocked, but Zhang Xiaochuan was also taken aback, thinking, is the whitening effect of this soap really that good? Did these folks mix up the ratios of bleach and fluorescent agents? But the hostess didn't wash like that. While the audience was buzzing with chatter, Zhang Xiaochuan carefully observed the man who had washed his face, as well as the soap and the water used. It dawned on him that perhaps this guy just hadn't washed his face in a long time. It wasn't just a layer of dirt. It was like he had shed a layer of skin. Having figured it out, Zhang Xiaochuan turned to the man and asked, "How does washing your face feel?" "Very good. Both the hands and face have become much smoother and finer, and there is a pleasant fragrance. The long-standing dirt on my hands has been thoroughly cleaned. And this feeling is fantastic. If I had had this earlier, Xiaohong wouldn't have married someone else. You don't know, this Xiaohong enough?" Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly interrupted the person casting the spell, raising his voice an octave higher. If he let him finish the story about Xiaohong, it would be dark by the time he was done. Turning to the audience, he said, "As you can see, the effect of our soap for washing face and hands is quite perfect, and of course, it works for bathing as well, though we won't demonstrate that here. Moreover, just this piece can last an ordinary family a whole month, which is much more durable than a pound of soap powder. The key is that this is the same type that only the privileged used to enjoy. Speaking of this, I'm sure everyone is curious about the price. So let me tell you, it's still just 8 coins. As soon as this was said, the crowd immediately erupted, with someone leading the chant, "Long live the Marquis of Shuzhou." Following that, more people joined in, "Long live the Marquis of Shuzhou." Under Zhang Xiaochuan's strong urging, the crowd finally quieted down again, but before he could speak, an untimely voice came through. "I wonder if this soap can be used for washing hair?" Zhang Xiaochuan clapped his hands and said, "Oh, that actually won't work." Dou-Yi laughed heartily. "Haha, I knew it. So you still need to buy soap powder for washing hair. That is not necessary." "Why?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied. "Have you heard of shampoo?" Once Zhang Xiaochuan finished demonstrating the shampoo, Dou-Yi looked pale. "What is the price of this?" The audience below anxiously asked. "Yeah, what is the price?" Zhang Xiaochuan didn't keep them in suspense and directly announced the price. Only 15 coins per bottle. Although it was a bit more expensive than the first two, everyone felt it was worth it. Finally, Zhang Xiaochuan dropped a bombshell. "Since we are launching these products for the first time, we're giving a benefit to the audience here today. The 3-in-1 set just demonstrated is only 28 coins. Those interested can register on the left side of the stage." "Wait a minute," Dou-Yi interrupted. "I have a question. Since the technology is so impressive and the products are of excellent quality, why are you selling them at such a low price? Isn't that contradictory? Or are you just putting on a facade? And the items you're selling are completely different from what you demonstrated?" Zhang Xiaochuan retorted, "You underestimate us. I don't think it's contradictory. Good things don't necessarily have to be expensive. Many skills are not high and mighty. Technology must serve everyone. That is the purpose of our exploration of technology and innovation. Technology and hard work. Technology and hard work. Technology." Zhang Xiaochuan pressed his hand to his forehead, thinking. The promotion of technology has penetrated people's hearts in a strange way, and it seems to be straying further off course. At least it has spread, which can be considered a good thing. Listening to the cheers from the crowd, Dou-Yi realized that they had completely lost this round. However, he was still not ready to give up, so he could only pin his hopes on the second product to be demonstrated. At this moment, Wang Yuanbao, looking dejected, asked, "Brother Dou, is there still a need to continue this press conference?" Dou-Yi firmly stated, "We must continue. If we end here, it would be a complete surrender. I don't believe he can excel in everything. At this moment, it's about our foundation. Besides soap powder, we have other products. Surely one of them can turn the tide." Wang Yuanbao and others no longer had a light-hearted attitude, filled instead with concern, all hoping that the upcoming products could outperform Zhang Xiaochuan. Seeing their change in demeanor, Dou-Yi felt gratified that they could finally face Zhang Xiaochuan seriously. After the crowd noisily completed the registration for the 3-in-1 package purchase, Dou-Yi rang a small gong to attract the audience's attention. Once everyone's gaze was gathered, he announced, "The so-called 7 essentials for opening a door are firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea. Next, our 9 major businesses will present soy sauce and vinegar." Chapter 306. I have it. I have it too. Upon hearing about soy sauce and vinegar, everyone perked up. These are essential items for daily living. Based on the earlier experience with soap powder, the prices of soy sauce and vinegar would likely drop significantly, which would be a huge benefit for the common people. Although the people in the Tang dynasty could afford soy sauce and vinegar, they had to use them sparingly. If the prices could be lowered, just the thought of it was exciting. After Dou-Yi's introduction, it was indeed as everyone expected, although he mentioned various improvements. What everyone understood was that the prices of soy sauce and vinegar had been drastically cut, which was enough to keep the excitement alive. However, for Zhang Xiaochuan, this meant something different. Dou-Yi and their optimization of manufacturing processes were standard behaviors of early industrialization. Firstly, a production line model had emerged, with more detailed divisions of labor. Secondly, machinery was replacing manual labor. And finally, new energy sources, such as fuel and electricity, were being utilized. Zhang Xiaochuan was pleased that he hadn't made a wrong move. He exchanged technology he intended to promote for a fortune of 10 million, while also gaining a group of free industrial revolution promoters. The most ridiculous part was that these individuals were deluded into thinking they could reap huge profits from this. But their dreams would soon be crushed. Seeing Dou Yao trying to suppress laughter to the point of turning red, Zhang Xiaochuan kicked him in frustration, saying, "Look at your potential." Dou Yao, having been kicked, dared not retort, fearing he would burst out laughing if he opened his mouth. Do Yi ignored the noisy crowd and observed Zhang Xiaochuan's deep thoughts and Do Yao's flushed face, feeling quite pleased. It seems Zhang Xiaochuan is running out of tricks and is even arguing with Do Yao. This is quite a challenge. This round is likely secure. He then provocatively said, Lord of Shuzhou, I wonder how you will respond to such products. Zhang Xiaochuan kicked Do Yao again, saying, get down and prepare. I'm going to continue slapping faces. Tong Yi, standing behind Zhang Xiaochuan, added, indeed, useless. Do Yao, feeling good at the moment, didn't he argue back and hurried to the backstage to arrange for the next products to be presented. Do Yi, seeing them laugh and insult, felt he was not being taken seriously, so he continued, Lord of Shuzhou, are you avoiding the topic? Have you run out of tricks? Zhang Xiaochuan turned to face Do Yi directly, saying, since you are eager to be slapped in the face, I'll grant you that. Do Yi scoffed. Zhang Xiaochuan addressed the crowd, everyone, what is our slogan? A moment of silence passed, and Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit awkward. It seemed that he had been too influenced by the stage effects of later times. The people around him appeared unsure of how to respond. So he guided them. Our slogan is technology and hard work. Technology and hard work. Technology and hard work. Facing the audience that was receptive, Zhang Xiaochuan expressed his satisfaction and pressed his hands down to calm the crowd, saying, without further ado, here are our soy sauce and vinegar, all mixed with pure technology. Absolutely flavorful, consistent in quality, and packaged independently. This was a promotional phrase that would be considered self-sabotaging in later times, but at this moment, it sounded impressive. Upon hearing pure technology mix, everyone was excited, thinking it was amazing and a great product. Taking advantage of the crowd's enthusiasm, Zhang Xiaochuan announced the prices. Although they were similar to Do Yi's, the independent packaging and technological mixing provided a significant edge in convenience and appeal. Crucially, Zhang Xiaochuan also prepared 125 milliliter small packages, ensuring everyone in the audience received one, which further escalated the excitement. Do Yi, on the other hand, had a grim expression, feeling bitter about this round of defeat. However, being a determined person, he quickly adjusted his mood and prepared for the third round. He struck the gong again to attract attention, and when everyone was focused, he said, the next product is fine salt. Shuzhou Marquis, what do you have to counter this? I don't believe you have any mixed salt. To which Zhang Xiaochuan had to admit, I really don't. Huh? Do Yi laughed heartily, feeling relieved. It seems you are limited to this. But Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted him at a higher pitch. My salt is independently packaged, and I also have fine white sugar, priced at less than half of the current brown sugar. Do Yi, unwilling to back down, shouted, I still have cheap burlap, ready-made clothes, and cloth shoes. Zhang Xiaochuan replied calmly, I have those too, along with polyester fabric and some yellow sneakers. I also have stainless steel buckets, basins, and vegetable bowls. I also have plastic products. Although the quality is slightly inferior, they are cheap, lightweight, and durable. Wait, you are targeting us on purpose, Do Yi exclaimed. Zhang Xiaochuan shook his head, you just realized? I'm a bit disappointed in you. You. Even Do Yi, known for his calm demeanor, felt like he was about to explode, completely overwhelmed. Each product seemed specifically aimed at them, indicating that Zhang Xiaochuan had mastered these technologies long ago and was simply toying with them. Now, everything was over, and there were no countermeasures left. In truth, Do Yi did have one item up his sleeve, but it was a secret that even the other 8 major merchants were unaware of. This was not the time to reveal it, which was why he hesitated repeatedly and ultimately kept it to himself even under pressure. Frustrated and unable to cope, Do Yi eventually collapsed, leading to a complete farce at the conference of the 9 major enterprises, with Zhang Xiaochuan's team emerging victorious. What followed was a frenzy of shopping from the crowd, while Zhang Xiaochuan quietly withdrew. The venue for the 9 major merchants became deserted, and they had no face left to stay, choosing instead to pack up and close. At the gathering place of the 9 major merchants, everyone appeared dejected, and Do Yi, who had regained consciousness, sat silently at the head of the table. Wang Yuanbao could no longer hold back and exclaimed, that Zhang family's kid is simply shameless. Our goods have all been targeted. What a deep scheme, what a cunning little brat. And those traitorous scoundrels from our own family. It turns out that those born out of wedlock are not good people after all. Luo Huizhu, the head of the Luo family, said, I was originally worried that Zhang Xiaochuan would leave a backup plan, so the products we brought to this press conference were all our own modified goods. Who would have thought they would still be targeted? However, I believe this is to be blamed on those who betray their own family. They must have leaked our secrets. Wang Yuanbao replied, yes, it's those traitorous scoundrels who ruined our big plans. The announcement regarding the ban on vouchers we intended to make today has also fallen through. I think everyone should immediately return to the clan to punish those traitors and expel them from the family. Do Yi said, there's no need for that. After seeing that illegitimate child at the press conference today, I arranged for someone to investigate. And he has already gone to the clan leader to request to be expelled from the family and establish his own branch. What? The heads of several major businesses exclaimed in unison. Actively applying for expulsion from the clan is equivalent to severing ties with the family. This is not only hard to accept in ancient times, where family ties are valued, but even in modern times, it is a difficult matter to bring up. So it's no wonder they were astonished. It's true, Do Yi continued. I believe the illegitimate children in your families are likely doing the same. Luo Huizhu said. How could this be possible? Being expelled from the clan will bring them a lifetime of shame. How did Zhang Xiaochuan manage to convince them? Nothing else, just benefits. Dou Yi replied. As long as there are sufficient benefits, there is nothing that cannot be betrayed. Chapter 307. The illegitimate child in tears of joy. Dou Yi's words left the other 8 in silence. It is indeed the case that as long as there are sufficient benefits, there is nothing that cannot be betrayed. Dou Yi continued. The products Zhang Xiaochuan showcased today were only aimed at us. I fear this is not his limit. Luo Huizhu said. What Dou Gong said is very true. But if that is the case, wouldn't our next plans be difficult to carry out? Dou Yi analyzed. It's not that bad, actually. We may not be as terrible as it appears on the surface. We simply underestimated the restraint on our products for the moment. Although Zhang Xiaochuan cleverly leveraged the ambitions of the illegitimate children to quickly establish a new business alliance, the illegitimate children, having separated from their families, have limited control over their caravans and shops. Therefore, their goods cannot be sold quickly to the counties and states. Currently, they can only sell in some important provincial cities, which is one issue. The second issue is that although they speak confidently, they have just established themselves, and their inventory is limited. So it will definitely not be enough to sell. Thus, Wang Yuanbao interjected, so our products only faced setbacks in Chang'an, and I can sell them elsewhere. We currently have a price advantage, so there is no worry about sales. Dou Yi said, exactly, so we only lost in terms of momentum. But we haven't lost the sale of this batch of new goods. We just need to consider their expansion speed and control the shipping volume. Everything will be fine. At the same time, we need to find a way to obtain the formulas for their new products. Although we faced a setback today, we can still fight back. So everyone needs to make the necessary arrangements. We will hold a press conference for valuable goods in the East Market tomorrow. Everyone responded in unison. After everyone left, Dou Yi hurried to pay his respects to Li Linfu. Firstly, he wanted to inform him of the situation here, and secondly, he couldn't let Zhang Xiaochuan continue to cause trouble at tomorrow's press conference in the Eastern Market. At Zhang Xiaochuan's residence, Dou Yao and several other illegitimate sons were chatting enthusiastically in the reception room. When Zhang Xiaochuan entered, they all stood up to greet him. After Zhang Xiaochuan signaled them to sit down, he said, "You all seem very excited." Dou Yao replied, "Excited indeed. We have accomplished something that we thought we would never achieve in our lives, which is to defeat the legitimate sons and hold our heads high. Is defeating the legitimate sons that important to you?" Zhang Xiaochuan asked. "Of course. You see, we all come from prominent families and have received good education. Yet it seems that only the legitimate sons succeed in business or politics, while the illegitimate sons are all seen as wastrels. It's not just because of our capabilities. It's the family's restrictions. We can't overshadow the legitimate sons, and everything is prioritized for them. Since we can't achieve anything significant, we can only live as useless individuals, waiting for death, until we met the Marquis of Shuzhou, who gave us the courage to be self-reliant. Since our families do not recognize our worth, we decided to establish our own identity. Today marks our first success." As he spoke, Dou Yao unexpectedly shed tears, unsure whether it was from joy over defeating the legitimate sons or pain from his ties to the clan. Then, Dou Yao suddenly knelt on the ground, bowing to Zhang Xiaochuan while saying, "The Marquis of Shuzhou has bestowed upon me a new lease on life. I am willing to pledge my loyalty to the Marquis of Shuzhou, ready to serve and fight without hesitation." The other illegitimate sons also knelt down to show their allegiance. Zhang Xiaochuan did not respond immediately. He simply waved his hand for them to rise, and then asked, "You all came to discuss the press conference for tomorrow, right?" Dou Yao confirmed, "Indeed. Tomorrow in the Eastern Market, there will be valuable goods. Although we had a plan beforehand, we still feel uncertain, which is why we came to bother the Marquis." Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Even though our products will overwhelmingly surpass theirs, it's always better to be cautious. However, before discussing tomorrow's press conference, let's talk about today's. Don't you think that since we have suppressed their goods comprehensively, they are bound to face defeat and ultimately perish?" Dou Yao responded, "Isn't that how it should be? Of course not. The harm our products currently cause them is not lethal. At most, we've only captured a portion of the market." Observing their clear eyes, Zhang Xiaochuan understood that these individuals, accustomed to a life of luxury, might not grasp the market situation, which is understandable. He continued, "While our products are good, they have a few fatal flaws that cannot be remedied in a short time, which is also their opportunity. Firstly, the limitation in product categories. Secondly, insufficient production capacity. And thirdly, restricted sales channels." Wang Yuanqing opened his mouth, wanting to say he didn't understand, but hesitated and instead said, "Lord of Shuzhou, please speak slowly." All right. To start with the first point, although our products are daily necessities, they lack one crucial item, food. This is unavoidable, as major businesses typically have substantial food reserves or sources. Therefore, this is something we cannot shake. Besides food, they also control land, shops, minerals, and so on. After Zhang Xiaochuan finished this statement, everyone's expressions grew serious. Seeing their change in demeanor, he knew they really understood this time. So he continued. The second issue is insufficient production capacity, which is also easy to understand. For instance, regarding the shampoo, based on our estimates, just from Chang'an and Luoyang, we could sell about 2 million bottles a month. However, you currently only have 200,000 bottles in stock, and you can only produce 20,000 bottles a day, which simply cannot meet the demand. That's the issue of insufficient capacity. The third issue is the sales channels. Currently, Our products are shipped to various places relying on our own transport teams and routes, and when they arrive, they are mostly sold through our own shops. This combined transport and sales is what we call sales channels. We lack all of this, so we can only sell in a few major cities. This is our most difficult flaw to overcome. After Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, the hall fell into silence. Chapter 308. Building sales channels. Although these individuals had not done much serious work in the past, they were still quite intelligent. And they quickly understood what Zhang Xiaochuan had said. Dou Yao sighed and said, "So you mean they are still standing strong? Does that mean we have only won in terms of momentum, but gain nothing in reality?" Zhang Xiaochuan rubbed his forehead. "I'm telling you not to be so disheartened. I only said you haven't completely defeated them yet, but the profits you're gaining are significant." Dou Yao chuckled. "Yeah, today our combined sales reached several thousand guan, which is something we never dared to imagine before. The key is that many people still don't know about it, and we are far from our peak. Plus we're selling at low prices. If we sold at regular prices, we could at least multiply our profits several times over." "But what do you mean by what you just said?" Zhang Xiaochuan, feeling frustrated, replied. "Raising questions is naturally part of solving problems. You're excited about the few thousand guan you made today, but when divided among several people, it's only a few hundred guan each. Why the excitement? If we address the last 2 points I mentioned, increasing your sales by several times won't be a problem." Wang Yuanqing exclaimed. "Several times? How much would that be? Let me calculate." "Don't bother calculating. One person can earn tens of thousands, or even over 100,000 guan in a day. That is so much. In a year, that is over 10 million guan, or even more." Wang Yuanqing was so excited that he nearly fainted. And Dou Yao quickly stepped forward to pat him on the back, saying, "Look at you, getting so worked up just from hearing this. What will happen when the money actually lands in your pocket? You might just scare yourself to death." Once Wang Yuanqing calmed down, he chuckled at Dou Yao, who was shaking and walking back. Zhang Xiaochuan raised a hand to calm everyone down, saying, "All right, don't get too excited. Sales figures do not equal profits. After deducting various costs, taxes owed, and repaying loans, you'll be lucky to keep even 10. Upon hearing this, everyone felt a significant psychological drop, and their moods took a nosedive. However, when they considered that even 10 could still amount to a substantial sum, the feeling of disappointment quickly faded. Although they all became more composed, Dou Yao pondered for a moment and remarked, "That doesn't add up. According to what the Marquis of Shuzhou said, wouldn't the taxes we pay be more than 20? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "That's correct. It is indeed 20. I understand your doubts, even under normal circumstances. The tax rate isn't that high, especially when families often try to evade taxes in business. So why should we pay taxes honestly, and even more? The reason is simple. When you were part of a family, you had the backing of powerful clans in the court. Now that you lack that support, we need to find new protection. Don't look at me. My roots are too shallow to protect anyone. It may seem like we're paying a lot of unnecessary taxes, but in essence, it's the same. Previously, the money went to the powerful clans behind you, while now it's being paid openly to the court. Ultimately, we need support and protection. There's an added benefit. When you give to the clans, you remain their subordinate. When you give to the court, you gain their attention, as they fear losing this income." Dou Yao remained silent, nodding in understanding, clearly grasping the implications. However, the reality might not be as simple as Zhang Xiaochuan portrayed. After all, the influence of the clans over the court is considerable, and the new interest group led by Zhang Xiaochuan cannot be tolerated by them. For now, they are merely seen as a minor nuisance, not yet taken seriously by the clans. Unfortunately, this minor nuisance is just the surface. Zhang Xiaochuan currently possesses absolute power on this planet, and to those clans, and even the imperial authority, he poses a serious threat. It's just a matter of when he decides to act. Returning to the 3 issues previously raised, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "As for the limitation in product variety, there's no way around it. We're just starting out, so we need to manage what we have at hand first. As for encroaching on other product markets, that should be approached gradually. Secondly, everyone knows about the insufficient production capacity, and we are speeding up the construction of new workshops. We can only try to accelerate while ensuring quality and safety. The main point today is the 3rd issue, sales channels." Dou Yao interrupted, saying, "Forgive my ignorance, but I thought this was about sales channels." "Yes, sales channels. Establishing these channels is not something that can be done overnight. I feel the difficulty is even greater than increasing production capacity." Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Are you planning to make money, hire more people or buy servants, and then train them to transport goods and open shops everywhere?" Dou Yao nodded and replied, "Yes, is there a problem?" "Wrong, very wrong. With your approach, how many years would it take to cover the entire region? You haven't even opened your trade routes, and by then, your competitors may have already learned your techniques." Dou Yao's face turned red. "I don't know how the Marquis of Shuzhou would teach us. Simple. Recruit agents. Looking at your clear eyes. I should explain what an agent is. Literally, they are merchants who sell goods on our behalf. We only handle production and sell in bulk to a few fixed merchants, who then sell according to our rules. These people are called agents." Without waiting for their questions, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "I know your concerns. You're worried about profit being shared, right? But that's unavoidable. After all, we don't have sales channels. Fortunately, as long as we earn reasonable profits, that's already a lot. One shouldn't be too greedy. Wanting everything will only lead to getting less in the end." They seemed to understand, so Zhang Xiaochuan explained the specific operational model. which resembled a distribution model from later times, dividing agents into levels based on region and capability. He also proposed a management mechanism, including supplier selection and evaluation, sales targets, territorial protection, after-sales service, and profit sharing. Of course, Zhang Xiaochuan only provided an overview. He had already developed detailed manuals. After this discussion, the admiration from the lesser nobles towards Zhang Xiaochuan grew even more. By following his methods, they could not only quickly establish distribution channels, but also bind a large group of small and medium-sized forces into a community of shared interests. Seeing their passionate gazes, Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't help but shiver. Don't get too serious. I'm straightforward. Chapter 309. Gao Lisher's little secret. After explaining the establishment of sales channels to the lesser nobles, Zhang Xiaochuan was about to discuss tomorrow's high-end product launch at the East Market when a maid reported that someone from the palace had arrived. Zhang Xiaochuan hurriedly left the group to greet them. To his surprise, it was Gao Lisher. Although Gao Lisher had long mastered a calm demeanor, Zhang Xiaochuan could tell at a glance that today's visitor was not here for a friendly chat, as he would have been smiling if that were the case. As expected, Gao Lisher opened his mouth and said, "His Majesty asked me to inquire if you, Marquis of Shuzhou, are aware of your crimes." "Oh, so it's really an inquiry about wrongdoing. The key is, how would I know what crime?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied honestly. "Gao, you really put me in a tough spot." Gao Lisher smiled slightly and said, "Don't blame me, Marquis of Shuzhou. This is what His Majesty sent me to ask. But do you truly not know what it's about?" "I really don't know. What have you been doing today?" Zhang Xiaochuan thought for a moment and said, "The launch event at the West Market." Gao Lisher nodded. "Precisely. His Majesty sent me to admonish you." "Wait, why am I being admonished? What for?" Gao Lisher spoke with a hint of understanding. "It seems you really don't get it." Just like that, Zhang Xiaochuan skillfully handed a stack of vouchers to Gao Lisher, who accepted them without hesitation, saying, "It's just that you, the Marquis of Shuzhou, treat me sincerely and have never regarded me as someone incomplete like others do. If it were anyone else, I wouldn't say so much." Originally, Gao Lisher's words were merely pleasantries. But Zhang Xiaochuan remembered that Gao Lisher held a high position and was respected even by princes, who addressed him with honorifics. Who would dare to call him inferior? So, he inadvertently asked, "I've heard that nobles and officials respect the inner chamber attendants very much. Why do you say that?" Zhang Xiaochuan's casual inquiry seemed to stir a sadness deep within Gao Lisher, and for the first time, he saw a trace of loneliness on the face of this master of emotional management. After a moment of contemplation, Gao Lisher replied, "You, the Marquis of Shuzhou, are still young. So it's understandable that you can't see through it. How could others possibly respect me? It's only because I am often by the emperor's side that they fear him. As for me, no matter how respectful they appear on the surface, the disdain emanating from their hearts is undeniable. They have always regarded me as just a servant." Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to ask if he held a grudge against those people. How could he tolerate their genuine disdain? And whether he planned to deal with them, but he didn't dare to voice it. However, Gao Lisher, having survived by Emperor Li Longji's side, could see through Zhang Xiaochuan's thoughts. "I am indeed an incomplete person. I have long been accustomed to others looking down on me. Moreover, since they still show me respect on the surface, how could I be dissatisfied? That little bit of frustration I felt earlier might just be because I'm getting older and feel guilty about not being able to continue." Yet, it seemed to Zhang Xiaochuan that he was even less respected than those people. Gao Lisher smirked. "You are right in saying that. Although you usually don't speak as respectfully as those people, I can feel that you have never regarded me as an outcast. And speaking of respect, your attitude towards the emperor isn't necessarily all that reverent either. Why are we discussing so many trivial matters instead of getting to the point?" The legacy of offspring is deeply ingrained in the citizens. Although Zhang Xiaochuan could guess most of Gao Lisher's sentiments, hearing them directly from him felt different, as if he had uncovered a secret of Gao Lisher's heart, making it inappropriate to continue the topic. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly responded, "Ah, right, the important matter. The emperor wants to admonish me." Gao Lisher then explained the emperor's intention to admonish Zhang Xiaochuan. There was nothing hidden about it. The surface reason was that as an official and a noble, Zhang Xiaochuan should not engage in activities like press conferences, which seemed like street-side shouting. Li Linfu, along with many other ministers, had impeached Zhang Xiaochuan for neglecting his duties, which was indeed detrimental to the court's dignity. The emperor had punished him with 7 days of house arrest, even exempting him from attending court, which Zhang Xiaochuan was quite pleased with. The real reason was that the emperor had previously promised Zhang Xiaochuan not to issue a prohibition on the use of vouchers, which had slightly undermined Li Linfu's authority. This time, Li Linfu made a request, and the emperor had to accommodate him to maintain a balance while also providing some benefits. To put it simply, the 9 major merchants believed that the press conference was completely ruined because of Zhang Xiaochuan. If they wanted to succeed in the Eastern market, they needed to make Zhang Xiaochuan disappear, at least temporarily. After Gao Lisher finished speaking, he did not linger and intended to leave. Zhang Xiaochuan quickly stopped him and asked, "Did His Majesty say I am to be confined for 7 days?" Gao Lisher gave Zhang Xiaochuan a meaningful glance, as if seeing through his intentions, squinting slightly with a smile, and replied, "Exactly." After saying this, Gao Lisher left without looking back. Zhang Xiaochuan returned to the others and directly mentioned that he would not be able to attend tomorrow's press conference in the Eastern market, causing the others to feel disheartened. Zhang Xiaochuan reassured them, "Do not worry, I have my own plans." In a secret room in the Eastern Market, 9 people sat neatly, with Do-e at the forefront. We have received word from the official side. The matter is settled, and tomorrow the Zhang family boy will surely not appear. Upon hearing this, the morale instantly soared. Wang Yuanbao said, without that Zhang Xiaochuan, we will surely achieve great success. Do-e cautioned, do not let your guard down. Even without Zhang Xiaochuan, we still do not know what goods they have. The 9 major merchants were still scheming for tomorrow's press conference, unaware that their conversation was being clearly overheard by a few individuals elsewhere. This group of people foolishly believed they could deal with us using outdated technology, which is simply wishful thinking. Erling, why aren't you listening? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, there is no important information, and no matter how deep their schemes are, they are futile in the face of absolute strength. He then turned to Day and said, keep monitoring here, take note of any important information, and see if there is anything else significant. Day responded, yes, there is currently no other important information, especially that old fox, who seems to know our lights have issues, never discussing anything important under them. However, this listening device has a major problem. What problem? It only transmits sound when the light is on, and it is easily damaged. Currently, almost 1/10 of it is broken, and the damaged parts cannot be easily replaced. Zhang Xiaochuan scratched his head, thinking that this listening device was quite unreliable. However, since it was just a whim, it hadn't been of much use. He said, let us leave it as it is for now, and we can replace it with a new generation once it's developed. On the day of the press conference in the Eastern Market, it was much more formal than that in the Western Market, with the audience seated on tiered stands while the conference stage was set on the ground. This time, the 9 major businesses were quite bold, allowing the others to share the stage with them, as if they were certain of victory without Zhang Xiaochuan. They began to point and criticize the group of others before it even started. The previously victorious group now appeared timid, possibly due to an ingrained respect for the legitimate heirs that wouldn't be easily dispelled. However, among them stepped out a spirited man who appeared honest and straightforward. The 9 major merchants were still speculating about who this was when the newcomer remarked, a bunch of short-sighted, incompetent loudmouths. If your manufacturing skills were as sharp as your tongues, you wouldn't be getting beaten by Erlang. Goodness, who has such a sharp tongue? That remark nearly sent Do-e away. However, the side of the illegitimate children was filled with joy, and a wave of counterattacks erupted. Do-e, helpless, could only shout with a red face, shut up. What skill is it to rely on clever words? Let's see the real goods. Oh, so we're not chatting anymore, huh? I actually want to tell you something. What is it? You have something in common with fish. What do you mean? I've heard that fish have a memory span of only a breath, meaning they forget what they did after a breath. This is somewhat similar to you, Dogong. Just now, you were pointing fingers at us, and when you couldn't argue, you wanted to compare goods. Do-e, in a fit of anger, almost spat out a mouthful of old blood, but Wang Yuanbao said, Brother Do, he's insulting you for being fickle and unreliable. Shut your mouth. Do-e couldn't hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of old blood. He pointed at the sharp-tongued person and asked, who are you? The man interjected, no need to be rude. I am Tung-e, a retainer of the Marquis of Shuzhou. Do-e felt a bit regretful, had he known. He would have preferred to let Zhang Xiaochuan come. At least he wasn't so sharp-tongued. This seemingly harmless and honest man had a venomous tongue. Do-e knew he was losing the verbal battle, so it seemed necessary to bring out the goods early to turn the tide. Amidst the anticipation of the crowd, the first product was about to make a dazzling appearance. The attendees today were either rich or noble, and they had long been looking forward to the introduction of this first product, the automobile. Do-e did not disappoint. The first item was indeed a sedan. Although Zhang Xiaochuan had created this sedan some time ago, it had no functional significance for him, besides making a few for the emperor. He had mostly focused on producing trucks, tractors, excavators, and cranes, which were all functional vehicles. However, Zhang Xiaochuan felt that producing sedans was not very meaningful at the moment. But for the noble lords, sedans were their favorites. Unfortunately, since Zhang Xiaochuan did not produce them, there was nothing anyone could do. Do-e was well aware of all this, so to make a strong impression with the first product, he decisively presented the sedan. A dazzling sedan rolled onto the stage, and Do-e praised it to the heavens, summarizing it in 2 points. First, it was high-end, elegant, and a symbol of status. Second, it represented the pinnacle of modern technology, capable of running without being pulled by oxen or horses. The key was that the price was also very attractive, only 990 guan. The audience might not have a concept of this amount, but converted to the purchasing power of later generations, it was about 5 to 6 million. Selling the first mass-produced sedan of the Tang dynasty for 6 million was genuinely not expensive, especially in the bustling capital of Chang'an. It was like a bargain, and soon, voices eager to place orders filled the air. However, many would clearly be disappointed, as only 100 units were available. It wasn't that Do-e understood the concept of scarcity marketing. The key was that the productivity at that time was too low. Even though they were beginning to transition towards industrialization, it was just starting, and productivity couldn't keep up. This was also a significant characteristic of feudal society. So scarcity marketing was impossible. The insufficient production capacity was a hard fact. As the atmosphere at the venue reached a peak and was about to enter the sold-out phase, an incongruous voice interrupted. Why don't you wait until our presentation is over before making a decision? Tung-e, true to his skills, projected his voice like thunder without a microphone, ensuring that everyone in the venue could hear him clearly. This brought a moment of calmness as many wealthy individuals from the Tang dynasty, who had not participated in the earlier excitement at the West Market, were aware of the situation and knew there was a competing team showcasing their talents. People returned to their seats, with some familiar with Do Yi suggesting to wait a little longer. Do Yi was indifferent. He had great confidence in his car, as it was a proud creation after his upgrades. Unfortunately, as soon as Tang Yi spoke, Do Yi's pride felt diminished. Tang Yi pointed at Do Yi's car and remarked, "If I were as useless as you, producing such a worthless thing, I wouldn't dare show my face here." Do Yi retorted angrily, "How dare you speak to me like that? If you continue to insult me, I will make you regret it. Do you really think I'm easy to bully?" Tang Yi muttered, "Why are you getting so worked up over a few truths? If you don't want to discuss it, fine. But I didn't see you get this angry when Erlang mentioned you." Do Yi was almost furious enough to turn away, thinking, "The Marquis of Shuzhou humiliates a merchant like me. I have no choice but to endure it. But what is a mere attendant to me?" However, this isn't the time to get angry. With that in mind, Do Yi pretended not to hear. Tang Yi, outwardly rough but inwardly astute, recognized that Do Yi's car had its merits. He was strategically trying to take the upper hand in morale. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaochuan wouldn't have sent him to the press conference as a substitute. To say Do Yi's car had advantages would be true, especially in terms of appearance. It featured a pure copper shell with a polished finish, giving it a luxurious golden hue that screamed high-end luxury, clearly handcrafted. Moreover, the design had undergone significant changes. While Zhang Xiaochuan's original design resembled a later model, Do Yi's car had been drastically altered, resembling the early Ford Model T after modifications. The driver and rear passengers were completely separated, with the driver's cabin lacking a door, while the passenger compartment was about a meter higher than the driver's, resembling an old-fashioned pickup truck carrying a flat-roofed carriage. Truly a remarkable vehicle. Although the modified car appeared peculiar, it highlighted the status difference between the driver and the passengers, making it unexpectedly align with the aesthetics of the era. Chapter 3:11. Understanding acceleration over 100 kilometers to counter Do Yi and his team. Tang Yi also needed to introduce the car. However, Do Yi's advantage lay in appearance, so he had to play to his strengths while avoiding weaknesses. Upon seeing Do Yi's car, Tang Yi already had a plan. He didn't immediately introduce the car, but said, "Before we dive into our product, I want to share some scientific knowledge with everyone." You might ask, what is scientific knowledge? As the name suggests, it is about spreading knowledge of science. So, what is science? Science is the pursuit of inquiry. Suddenly, Tang Yi paused, and the entire venue fell silent, waiting for him to continue. But he found himself at a loss for words. He scratched his head and said, "Forget it, that's not important." Immediately, everyone collectively fell down. "If it's not important, why are you babbling on? Just say you forgot." With a thick skin, he didn't care about the murmurs around him and continued, "About this sedan, there's a performance." Oh no, it stuck again. Once again, everyone fell down together. This time, he didn't change the topic, but paused before continuing. "There's a performance, yes. A performance. I remembered. This performance is the acceleration to 100 kilometers per hour. Simply put, it means that when the sedan starts running, it will get faster and faster. The time it takes to reach 100 kilometers is the acceleration time. The shorter the time, the faster the car and the better the performance." After finishing, he silently recalled it in his mind, feeling like these things were burning out his few remaining brain cells. If Zhang Xiaochuan were here, he would just hold his forehead and say, "Is that what acceleration to 100 kilometers means?" Everyone didn't understand anyway. But they felt that acceleration to 100 kilometers was something incredible, instantly making it seem far superior to Do Yi's car, raising their expectations. Next, instead of having someone drive the sedan directly to the center of the venue, he pointed with his hand to a road beside the venue. Everyone looked over and saw a group of people clearing the road, at the end of which was a sedan that looked very different from Do Yi's. Then, he took out a small red flag and waved it a few times at the car. With a roar, the sedan sped towards them and, in just a few moments, was right in front of them, stunning everyone with its speed. He pointed at the car and proudly said to everyone, "See? This is acceleration to 100 kilometers. Isn't it impressive? From the entrance to here, there's at least a kilometer, and it got here in just a few moments." Everyone began to discuss the performance of the sedan, naturally comparing it to Do Yi's. Do Yi was also worried that people would ask about the acceleration of his car. But as the saying goes, you fear what you fear. At that moment, a bystander asked, "Do Gong, does your car have acceleration to 100 kilometers? Acceleration to 100 kilometers? Does it have it? What is that? Doesn't he seem like it?" Gradually, sweat began to bead on Do Yi's forehead. At this moment, Tang Yi delivered a sharp retort. "Why are you asking him? His car is just a decoration. How could it have acceleration to 100 kilometers? Do Yi was speechless. But being a shrewd businessman, he quickly thought of a counterargument. "So what if you drive fast? Driving fast can be bumpy. That horse-drawn carriage can also run fast. But who would ride a horse-drawn carriage at full speed? Wouldn't you just fall apart?" Given the current performance of vehicles, Do Yi's words immediately resonated with the crowd, who expressed that they wouldn't dare to ride at such a high speed for fear of being jolted around. Tang Yi showed a sly smile. "I knew you would bring this up. Our sedan's second performance is the shock absorption. You probably don't understand shock absorption, right? Shock absorption means silence. Awkwardness." A bystander shouted, "If you don't even know what it is, don't show off." Tang Yi glared. "How could I not know? Shock absorption means no bumps. As for how good it is, I'll demonstrate it for you right away. With a wave of his hand, someone immediately brought over a dozen logs that had been cut in half, placing the cut side down to create a makeshift speed bump in front of the car. As the group looked at the row of logs, their confusion outweighed their surprise. Most of them did not believe that the car could pass through such an arrangement without bouncing. Unexpectedly, Tung Yi increased the difficulty by placing a cup filled 8/10 with water on the roof of the car. At this point, one onlooker couldn't help but say, "Are you trying to tell us that the water won't spill?" Tung Yi nodded. "Exactly. Talk is cheap. Seeing is believing. Please watch." As Tung Yi spoke, the car slowly started moving. When the front wheels rolled over the logs, everyone held their breath, but when the rear wheels passed over the logs, the cup remained firmly on the roof without spilling a drop. The crowd went wild. The shock absorption effect was simply incredible. Do-yi, however, felt a deep bitterness. He had some knowledge about shock absorption as Zhang Xiaochuan had designed the first generation of the car with a similar system, but it used leaf springs. The shock absorption effect of leaf springs was just average, comparable to that of an older model electric tricycle. There was some effect, but it was not significant. What he couldn't accept was how the shock absorption of Zhang Xiaochuan's new car could be this good. Before Tung Yi could speak, he couldn't help but ask, "Why is your shock absorption so effective?" Tung Yi was just about to explain when Do-yi interjected, practically seizing the opportunity. "Well, since you asked, let me explain. This is a hydraulic shock absorption system." Do-yi pressed further. "What do you mean by hydraulic? How does it work?" Tung Yi replied, "I can't explain all the details, but it's impressive. You won't feel any bumps at all when sitting inside. Now you see that your product is inferior, right?" Do-yi felt utterly defeated. This time, he was thoroughly outmatched. However, Tung Yi showed no mercy toward Do-yi's desperate state and proceeded with his next move, effectively sidelining Do-yi. "Don't rush to admit defeat. I haven't finished introducing everything yet." Do-yi felt like he was about to spit blood in frustration. Tung Yi then turned to the audience. "Everyone, our car not only runs fast and smoothly, but more importantly, it is made from a new type of material that makes it lighter. You might not realize the benefits of being lightweight. So let me explain. This car runs on fuel, and fuel is expensive. Our car is fuel efficient. The specific reasons might be hard to explain, but it's like pulling a cart. The heavier it is, the more effort it takes, and the lighter it is, the easier it is to manage." "Ah, yes. That explanation makes sense. I seem to have salvaged my argument. I'm truly a genius." The crowd collectively fell into disbelief, thinking, "You're just making things up because you barely understand." However, Tung Yi's explanation appeared quite reasonable. Chapter 312. The Rich Merchant's Disastrous Defeat. Although Tung Yi spoke in a disorganized manner, everyone surprisingly understood him. Now there was just one last question left, the price. However, Do-yi would not let Tung Yi pass this stage so easily. He continued to raise doubts at the right moment. Is a lightweight body necessarily a good thing? As far as I know, a car that runs fast experiences more wear, so the body must be sturdy. It is well known that sturdy materials include gold, silver, copper, and iron, all of which are not light. You say your car body is light. Does that mean you are using wood? Tung Yi sneered disdainfully. I see you are as clueless as someone in summer without ice. You think that summer insects cannot talk about ice. Almost, but don't dwell on these trivial matters. Do-yi was infuriated. Tung Yi continued. If you think only gold and iron are hard and sturdy, that just shows. Do-yi was on the verge of losing his mind, wondering where this joker came from. He angrily interjected. You are ignorant. Yes, Do-gong is indeed knowledgeable. Do-yi retorted. If you lack knowledge, don't use idioms, just properly introduce your car. Many spectators nodded in agreement. Tung Yi, still carefree, smiled. But thankfully he finally stopped using idioms. However, he got stuck again because he couldn't recall what material the car was made of. Fortunately, Do Yao and his group, being producers, were familiar with many technical parameters and raw materials. Do Yao whispered something in Tung Yi's ear, and Tung Yi continued. We use a very advanced material called aluminum alloy, which has a hardness comparable to steel, and importantly, it is very light, truly as light as wood. Do-yi, of course, did not believe it, so he decided to test the weight of the car on the spot. Since there wasn't a large scale or platform scale available, they found some people to lift the car and see how many could manage it. The vehicles from Do Yao's side could be easily lifted by just 6 people, while Do-yi's car, being not only made of heavy materials but also large, required a full 16 people to lift it, and it was still quite a struggle. This test clearly showed the difference, leaving Do-yi speechless. Tung Yi then began to quote the price, which was 990 guan, clearly aimed at Do-yi and his group. Unsurprisingly, Do-yi and his team were utterly defeated. Aside from some aesthetic merits, they were thoroughly crushed. In terms of appearance, both had their strengths, but after all, Zhang Xiaochuan's design for Do Yao's group was a classic streamlined form, exuding simplicity and elegance. A beauty that is no longer found today. After Tung Yi quoted the price, the entire press conference entered a pause phase, as everyone was eager to order the cars. The 500 units led by Tung Yi were sold out, and pre-orders extended 6 months into the future. On Do-yi's side, while it couldn't be described as tragic, at least 100 units were sold out, but this was far from enough for them. In short, it was a complete defeat. After the car orders, the press conference continued, but the fate remained unchanged. When Do-yi presented a water wheel with a motor, Tung Yi brought out a high-pressure water pump. And the outcome was predictable. When Doi showcased an electric fan, Tung Yi unveiled an air conditioner, and once again, it was a crushing defeat. The final preparations to announce the ban on vouchers were once again thwarted. Doi understood that products are the real deal. Zhang Xiaochuan made it clear that the technology provided to them was only the basic version, with intermediate and advanced versions available later, which he could leverage at any time. However, Zhang Xiaochuan and his team had a critical flaw that could not be rectified in a short period: production capacity. Therefore, Doi decisively shifted focus to other secondary cities and trade with neighboring regions after the press conference. Although this reduced their influence domestically, the actual profits did not decrease. However, this approach only addresses the symptoms and not the root cause. After all, Zhang Xiaochuan's team had a product advantage, and over time, their production capacity would grow rapidly. And business channels could be established quickly, leading to a swift market takeover. Ultimately, the 9 major merchants would face destruction. Zhang Xiaochuan was the root of all these troubles, so he had to be dealt with first. However, both Dou Yi and Li Linfu understood that Zhang Xiaochuan could offer weapons to the authorities, which meant he certainly possessed comparable power, so a direct confrontation was not yet the right approach. The most crucial point was that they might not even be Zhang Xiaochuan's match. Another reason Li Linfu was cautious was that the emperor currently valued Zhang Xiaochuan highly. If they moved against him, they would face the emperor's wrath. Li Linfu believed that taking such a significant risk to eliminate Zhang Xiaochuan was not worthwhile. Therefore, dealing with Zhang Xiaochuan could only be done through commercial means, specifically by continuing the failed plans to ban vouchers. Dou Yi needed to actively strategize on this matter. And even Li Linfu had to take it seriously and cooperate with Dou Yi. After the press conference, the entire Chang'an fell into a frenzy, taking pride in owning a new product. When people greeted each other, instead of asking if they had eaten, they asked if they had used shampoo, experienced air conditioning, or ridden in a luxury car. As a result, the black market prices for luxury cars and air conditioning doubled. This forced Zhang Xiaochuan's team into a different kind of busyness. Production. They had more orders than they could fulfill, watching customers with cash lining up at the door, unable to provide the products. It was a mix of pain and pleasure. As for Zhang Xiaochuan's arrangement for Tung Yi to stir things up at the press conference, the emperor did not send anyone to reprimand him, clearly tacitly approving of this approach. The wealthy merchants under Li Linfu could only admit their inferiority. In fact, another reason was that an air conditioning installation team arrived at Xingqing Palace today. Li Longji felt a slight chill in the summer imperial study, unprecedentedly donning a cloak while reviewing documents. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan was quite comfortable. The house arrest punishment imposed by the emperor was merely a vacation for him. He was now fishing and barbecuing in the courtyard, accompanied by several maids, a lively scene. Holding the fishing rod in one hand, he poured drinks with the other, feeding skewers, and occasionally indulging in some playful behavior, all without worrying about being invited to dinner by the authorities. However, joy has its limits. Once happiness is doubled, a little more can lead to a reversal into pain. Just a moment ago, Dia was happily pouring wine, but the next second, she was using her tricks on Zhang Xiaochuan's skin. A servant reported that Princess Lingchong had arrived. Ever since the emperor issued the marriage decree, this name had become a taboo. As soon as it appeared in the Zhang family, Zhang Xiaochuan was bound to suffer. Ouch, it hurts. It really hurts. Dia slammed the cup onto the table, saying, "Just let it hurt you to death." Xiaoya then apologized to Zhang Xiaochuan. "Husband, please don't blame me. My sister is just a bit impatient and didn't mean to offend you." Zhang Xiaochuan shot Dia a glare, but then spoke gently to Xiaoya. "You are still so considerate, Xiaoya." With that, he got up to welcome the princess. Chapter 313. Zhang Xiaochuan's daily life under house arrest since Princess Lingchong had her night of joy with Zhang Xiaochuan. She had only met him once on the day of the marriage decree. Deep down, she still liked him, after all. He was a prominent figure in the eyes of the emperor and a hot topic among the people, which would naturally spark curiosity in a young girl. Once there's interest, it's easy to develop feelings. Furthermore, after being schemed against and having a connection with Zhang Xiaochuan, and with the emperor's approval, everything would fall into place. Princess Lingchong was relatively conservative, so she had never taken the initiative to seek out Zhang Xiaochuan. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaochuan was busy with official duties and managing the industrial park's construction, so he wouldn't actively seek her either. Fortunately, Li Longji arranged for Lingchong to take the initiative, giving her the courage to come forward. Some might say that the dynasty was quite open-minded, especially when it came to princesses. This statement isn't wrong, but it doesn't contradict Princess Lingchong's innocence. The openness of the dynasty was relative to other eras, and it simply meant that there were more open-minded individuals, much like how some places are known for their love of spicy food. Even though not everyone there eats spicy food. As Zhang Xiaochuan spotted Princess Lingchong from a distance, he felt a sudden brightness in front of him. Today, she wore a water green dress that revealed a hint of white at her chest. With a touch of makeup enhancing her natural beauty, she appeared even more charming. The golden hairpin she wore sparkled as she walked, elevating her overall presence. By the time Princess Lingchong approached, Zhang Xiaochuan was still lost in thought, and Xiaoya, who had accompanied her, also played her tricks, bringing him back to his senses. He inwardly scolded himself, thinking he should have been more composed, but it was too late to dwell on that now. Quickly wiping his mouth, he said, "I pay my respects to the princess." Princess Lingchong replied, "There's no need for formalities, Lord of Shuzhou. I've come in casual attire, wishing to avoid excessive formalities. She even reached out to help the courteous Xiaoya, while they had not joined them at all. Princess Lingchong continued, "You must be Sister Xiaoya. Why do you carry such a strong scent of fennel? Were you just cooking something?" Xiaoya, taking the opportunity, said, "We are barbecuing. If the princess doesn't mind, please join us." "Great. The aroma from Sister Xiaoya is making me crave it," the princess replied. As the two of them walked towards the barbecue grill by the pond, Zhang Xiaochuan inexplicably turned into air, quietly following behind. A quarter of an hour later, someone exclaimed, "So spicy. Quick, give me some water." At this moment, Xiaoya handed over a glass of bubbling water. The Princess Lingchong took it and drank deeply, only to involuntarily let out a burp. Blushing, she said, "I apologize for my rudeness." Zhang Xiaochuan chuckled. "It's fine. This drink can make you burp easily, and we're all friends here. No need to be so formal." He leaned a little closer to Lingchong, who surprisingly didn't mind and even responded playfully, "Then I must apologize. But what is this drink? It's truly delicious, sweet, and not only relieves the spiciness, but also cools you down. This barbecued meat with chili is really aromatic, making it hard to resist. This drink is called Sprite. It's particularly refreshing," Xiaoya said while rubbing her belly. "It tastes good, but it can make you gain weight, so don't overindulge." Lingchong also reached out to rub Xiaoya's belly, saying, "Where's the weight? Sister Xiaoya has a great figure." She then took Xiaoya's hand and rubbed her own belly. "Look at me. My belly has weight." Zhang Xiaochuan, watching from the side, felt parched, thinking, "Where's the weight? Your figure is just fine. I guess I need to be a bit shameless and take advantage of the situation." Just then, he was interrupted by a shout, "Erlang." As Zhang Xiaochuan was about to reach out, he turned to see Teng Yi approaching and snapped, "You better have a very important reason for interrupting me." Teng Yi shrugged and said, "Come on, Erlang, that's too much. It's not that I'm anxious. But someone said there's an urgent matter regarding you, otherwise I wouldn't rush over. As for whether it's really that important, you have to ask him." He pointed towards a hurried figure coming from behind. In the direction Teng Yi pointed, a small, plump old man dressed in luxurious clothing was walking quickly, none other than Li Shizhi. Unexpectedly, as the old man hurried over, he was distracted by the skewers on the barbecue grill, completely forgetting why he was there, his expression becoming somewhat lewd as he stared at the skewers. "Lord of Shuzhou, why does this barbecue smell so good? It's so different from the usual barbecue." Zhang Xiaochuan initially wanted to ask what he was doing there, but seeing Li Shizhi's eagerness, he decided it would be awkward to say anything else at that moment. So, he went along with Li Shizhi's comment, "Li Xiang, this is made with a secret seasoning. Why don't you give it a try and share your thoughts?" Li Shizhi immediately squinted his eyes. "Good, good, good." He took a skewer and took a bite. "Delicious. This flavor is so memorable, making it hard to stop. Good, good, good." After devouring 3 skewers, Li Shizhi smacked his lips and said, "It feels like something is missing." Zhang Xiaochuan knew that the old man wanted to drink, but since he didn't like spirits, he hadn't prepared any. He had already instructed someone to fetch it. So for now, he could only have a maid bring over some drinks. He then said to Li Shizhi, "This drink is a new invention called Sprite. Why don't you try it?" Li Shizhi took a sip. "Not bad, it's good, but without alcohol, it's still a bit lacking." Just then, the liquor arrived. And Li Shizhi's eyes lit up. "I just thought of a very special way to drink it." As he spoke, he poured white liquor into the Sprite. And Zhang Xiaochuan secretly gave a thumbs up, saying, "A drunkard is indeed a drunkard. This strange mix of Sprite and liquor is quite innovative. If you add some egg white juice, you can make a cocktail." Li Shizhi took a sip and exclaimed, "Wonderful. This is the feeling." Seeing that Li Shizhi had finished for the moment, Zhang Xiaochuan then asked, "Li Xiang, you came in a hurry. Is there something urgent?" Li Shizhi paused for a moment, then suddenly remembered he had an important matter to discuss. He slapped his forehead and said, "Oh dear, my apologies. I got so caught up in eating and drinking that I completely forgot about the important business." Just as he was about to speak, he noticed Princess Lingchong, Xiaoya, and a group of servants, and he bowed to Princess Lingchong, saying, "I got greedy and forgot to greet the princess. My apologies." Princess Lingchong stood up and returned the greeting, saying, "No harm done." Li Shizhi then pulled Zhang Xiaochuan aside and said, "Let us talk privately for a moment." In a secluded spot, Li Shizhi said, "Someone is targeting your vouchers, and it's happening in the next few days. As soon as I found out, I rushed to tell you. Why do you look so calm? Did you already know?" Zhang Xiaochuan nodded. Li Shizhi continued, "It seems I acted unnecessarily." "Not at all. True friends show themselves in times of trouble. I will certainly remember your kindness, Li Xiang. I only know there is such a matter. The specifics of their actions are unknown to me. I would appreciate it if you could elaborate. I've arranged some food. So let us eat and talk in the pavilion over there." Li Shizhi readily agreed, and the two went to the pavilion where Huang Pengzi brought some food and drinks. After they had a drink, Zhang Xiaochuan asked, "I have a question that might be inappropriate. If it's inconvenient, feel free not to answer." "No problem. Please ask." "Duke of Shuzhou, the matter regarding my vouchers should be quite secret, Li Xiang." Li Shizhi understood Zhang Xiaochuan's question and replied, "Don't be fooled by my drunken demeanor. I have connections due to my position and family support. They plan to completely undermine your voucher business and are uniting various powerful families to act together, and they are being quite overt about it, as if it's intentional." "I see. Please elaborate further, Li Xiang." So, while drinking, Li Shizhi shared all the information he had. The content was similar to what Zhang Xiaochuan already knew. 9 major merchants had hoarded a large number of vouchers. originally planning to announce a ban on them during the new product launch to incite people to exchange the vouchers for cash at Zhang Xiaochuan's bank in Chang'an. If Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't provide the cash, they would have him at their mercy. Little did they know that the last 2 launch events had failed, and their influence was now negligible. To achieve their goal, they proposed sharing new technology with participants to gain more support. Upon hearing this, Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed, "Isn't that perfect? I was worried about how to promote technology. Industrialization is too slow. This is a clear opportunity." Thinking of this, Zhang Xiaochuan blurted out, "Great." Li Shizhi was taken aback, nearly twisting his back. "What did you say?" "Oh, I said that it's not good." "Is that so?" Li Shizhi was somewhat doubtful. "How come what I heard was forget it? I must have misheard." "That's probably the situation," Zhang Xiaochuan asked. "Does the family of the Prime Minister also?" Li Shizhi felt a bit apologetic and replied, "This involves family interests, and I cannot influence it. Being able to notify you is already my utmost limit. I am very grateful to learn this from the Prime Minister, but I must remind him not to get too deeply involved, lest it leads to greater losses." Li Shizhi was taken aback. "Could it be that you already have a plan?" Zhang Xiaochuan did not answer, but raised his cup and said, "Let's drink." Li Shizhi lifted his cup, observing Zhang Xiaochuan's calm demeanor, and realized he had come to the right place today. He decided to advise his family not to get involved in this matter upon returning, otherwise, they might suffer greater losses for a small gain. Seeing that Li Shizhi was deep in thought, Zhang Xiaochuan knew he had taken his words to heart and boldly added, "In fact, if the Prime Minister's family engages in other businesses, we could collaborate directly, given our relationship." Li Shizhi was momentarily stunned upon hearing this, then suddenly enlightened. Patting his forehead, "What you say is very true, thank you very much. No need for courtesy, it's just mutual benefit." Once the matter was settled, the two continued to drink. Zhang Xiaochuan initially wanted to send Li Shizhi off to accompany the delicate princess, but Li Shizhi showed no intention of leaving. Zhang Xiaochuan had no choice but to keep him company. After much effort, when Li Shizhi finally left in high spirits, Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to find the princess. But she had vanished without a trace. He could only drag his intoxicated self back to his room to rest. Just as he returned to his room, he heard a knock on the door. "Is the Marquis of Shuzhou resting?" Zhang Xiaochuan was startled. "Why is it the princess?" Time rewound 2 hours earlier. When Zhang Xiaochuan was pulled by Li Shizhi to drink, the displeased day had returned, and Princess Lingchong wanted to bond with the two ladies, while also showcasing her royal qualities and wealth as a princess, laying the groundwork for potentially marrying into the Zhang family as the mistress. Therefore, Princess Lingchong had her attendants bring out the jewelry, silk, and cosmetics that had been prepared in advance, all of which were exquisite. Unfortunately, for Day and Xiaoya, being members of the royal family from the plateau, gold, silver, and jade were everyday items, and they had no shortage of silk either. The designs might be slightly inferior to those of another renowned dynasty, but they were not so stunned or envious of what Princess Lingchong presented. As for the cosmetics, that was a different story. Since following Zhang Xiaochuan, Day and Xiaoya had been using cosmetics and skincare products that were replicas from future generations. While the skincare effects might not be as good as the purely natural products available now, they were highly functional and offered an upscale sensory experience. Thus, when a variety of colorful glass and ceramic bottles filled with various creamy substances, emitting a balanced fragrance, were presented, Princess Lingchong was completely bewildered. Who was the princess here? And who was showcasing wealth to whom? At that moment, Princess Lingchong felt her self-esteem had taken a serious hit. She even contemplated leaving. Yet her eyes couldn't move away from those little bottles and jars, drawn in by the fatal allure of cosmetics for women. As a result, Princess Lingchong unconsciously set aside her pride and began to explore the effects of these products with Day and Xiaoya, at which point Day revealed a charmingly mischievous smile. Having succeeded in her scheme, as they were engrossed in conversation, half a day had passed without them noticing. It wasn't until the lights turned on and the room suddenly brightened that Lingchong realized she had completely forgotten the purpose of her visit. It was time for her to take her leave. However, just as she was about to exit the residence, she hesitated. She thought to herself, "What am I doing here? I didn't manage to showcase royal wealth and authority in front of Xia and Xiaoya, nor did I deepen my relationship with Zhang Xiaochuan. Why am I so lacking in ambition, getting distracted by trivial matters? But these items are exquisite and rare, hard to find outside. And they must be the work of Zhang Xiaochuan. Each of these items is invaluable. It's surprising that he only gives them to his concubines. I, as a princess, have never even seen them. Who is truly the princess here? No, he is also my husband. I should have access to these as well, and I should be prioritized. But the fact that I don't have them only means he doesn't hold me in high regard. Sister Xiani said that to make a man care about you, you need to get into his bed, and if that doesn't work, then try a few more times. Oh, how embarrassing. I feel like my face is burning. But it doesn't matter. After all, my father has already arranged the marriage." With that thought, and under the surprised gazes of Xia and Xiaoya, Lingchong turned around and hurried back into the residence, heading straight for Zhang Xiaochuan. Chapter 315, He is indeed my husband. Watching Lingchong's retreating figure, Xia and Xiaoya exchanged glances, clearly suspecting what Lingchong intended to do. Xiaoya silently turned to leave, while Xia scoffed, "Humph, what?" Xiaoya quickly covered Xia's mouth and dragged her away. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the princess standing at the door, a bit surprised. "I've met Princess Lingchong before. Is the Marquis not inviting me in to sit?" "Please, Your Highness." Zhang Xiaochuan stepped aside to welcome her in. They sat silently across from each other at the table in the bedroom, and the atmosphere became somewhat ambiguous. Zhang Xiaochuan thought, is the princess here to throw herself at me this late? Should I accept or not? Oh, this is so confusing. What posture should I take to accept her advances? Ling Chong originally thought that since they had already been intimate, it would be fine to embrace him upon entering. However, the atmosphere now left her at a loss for words. And her mind went blank. After a long pause, while Zhang Xiaochuan was lost in thought, Ling Chong couldn't hold back any longer and bit her lip, exclaiming, husband, husband, where? Zhang Xiaochuan exclaimed in confusion, suddenly realizing that he was indeed the husband, and blurted out, oh right, I am the husband. Haha, what a situation this is. Ling Chong was amused by Zhang Xiaochuan's bewildered expression and momentarily forgot her shyness. But isn't the husband still unaccustomed to being called that by others? A bit. After all, we haven't had the grand wedding yet. Since you're not used to it, can I call you my lord instead? Your highness, just call me Ling Chong. Ling Chong, my lord, please cherish me. Oh, cherish? How do I cherish? Zhang Xiaochuan slapped his forehead. Wait, cherish? Isn't that an archaic term? I didn't even react in time. Zhang Xiaochuan immediately transformed into a figure of desire, embracing the charming beauty before him. After one night, Princess Ling Chong completely let herself go and moved into the residence of the Marquis of Shuzhou. To her surprise, just as she had imagined. All the cosmetics and skincare products she had seen that day were arranged for her, and they even customized unique containers for her. Besides cosmetics and skincare products, there were various uniquely designed accessories and clothing, especially those pants called yoga pants, which felt quite embarrassing to wear, but surprisingly comfortable and flattering to the figure. The longer she stayed, the more Princess Ling Chong felt that Zhang Xiaochuan was mysterious and unfathomable, like a towering mountain, captivating her beyond escape. It wasn't until someone from the palace came to summon her back that Princess Ling Chong returned to the royal palace. Meanwhile, while Zhang Xiaochuan leisurely enjoyed his vacation outside, there was a heated discussion about the declining value of vouchers. Holding the latest information, Zhang Xiaochuan contemplated strategies for response when Dou Yao and Wang Yuanqing showed up. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at them and asked, what's going on? Is business not good these days? Why do you have time to come here? Dou Yao replied, business is great. The factory is busier than ever. Then why do you both look so downcast? It's about the vouchers. They nodded like chicks pecking at rice. Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Even if the outside world is criticizing the vouchers, that shouldn't affect you much, right? Dou Yao said, isn't it? If your bank can't provide cash for everyone to exchange, won't that mean losing everything? If that happens, your family would be finished. But why do you seem so calm? Don't you know the severity of the situation? I do know, but this doesn't concern you, Zhang Xiaochuan replied. Doesn't it? If you go down, it seems we might not be affected much. Dou Yao scratched his head and said, I thought if you went down, we would go down with you, but it seems. Zhang Xiaochuan face-bombed. Don't say you're associated with me. Dou Yao chuckled. Even if it doesn't affect us much, everyone knows we are with you. If you go down, it's not good for us. Wang Yuanqing chimed in. How is that not good? If you go down, I want to have to pay back the money I owe. Zhang Xiaochuan's expression darkened. Tung-yi, throw them out. Wang Yuanqing quickly pleaded. Don't be angry, Marquis of Shuzhou. It was just a joke. We wouldn't do such a thing. Enough. But I can responsibly tell you that the Zhang family won't collapse, and the bank will be fine. Since you're here, I'll give you a few instructions. According to my requirements, the wages paid by the factory are all in vouchers. I'm worried that if the workers hear rumors, they might strike, so you need to calm them down in advance. Wang Yuanqing said, there's no need to worry about that. Our current treatment is so good that even if the vouchers can't be exchanged for cash, just being able to buy our products first is enough. Right now, our goods are in such high demand that even money can't buy them. Your arrogance is due to insufficient production. Since everything is fine, you can go back to work now. Wang Yuanqing quietly asked, can I ask one last question? Go ahead. In the Shu province, the local lord remarked, look, we are all in this together. If the copper coins really aren't enough to exchange for vouchers, can we at least have priority? Zhang Xiaochuan kicked him aside and said, get lost. After sending off these two clowns, Zhang Xiaochuan continued to ponder the matter of the vouchers. One must say that the influence of the gentry on public opinion is no empty claim or exaggeration. It is truly being demonstrated vividly now. Zhang Xiaochuan couldn't understand how they managed to do it, but in just a few days, rumors about the vouchers were everywhere in Chang'an and beyond. Though the rumors were varied, they could be summarized into two main points. First, it was said that the vouchers were not recognized by the court and could not be used to pay taxes, which served as evidence that the court would soon ban the vouchers. Second, it was claimed that Zhang Xiaochuan simply did not have enough copper coins in reserve, that the vouchers were printed haphazardly, and that they couldn't be exchanged for copper coins at all. Moreover, it was rumored that he had already converted the vouchers into goods and was preparing to flee overseas. The rumors also suggested a solution to avoid losses. One should quickly go to Zhang's bank to exchange the vouchers for copper coins, or else they might miss the opportunity entirely. The rumors were escalating. And for the first time, Zhang Xiaochuan's newly established bank was experiencing a situation where vouchers were being exchanged for copper coins, which had previously only been the other way around. Zhang Xiaochuan found it impossible to stop the momentum of the rumors, nor did he intend to manage them, as he had known from the beginning that the 9 major merchants and the gentry behind them would surely incite a run on the bank. Therefore, he had devised a targeted response plan. What surprised him was how the rumors in this era could achieve the same effect as modern internet dissemination. He was genuinely in awe. Chapter 316. All about women's products. Given the current surge of rumors, a large-scale exchange of vouchers for copper coins was inevitable the next day. Thus, Zhang Xiaochuan arranged a conference call to confirm the execution of various response measures. The telephone had undergone multiple upgrades and had reached a level comparable to later landline phones. The greatest improvement was that there was no longer a need to announce the end of a conversation. Zhang Xiaochuan was now transitioning from walkie-talkies to the era of wired phones. The meeting proceeded quickly, as everything was progressing smoothly according to plan. The next step was to face the anticipated run the next day. As long as Zhang Xiaochuan could hold steady for a while, the rumors would naturally dissipate. Inside the Xingqing Palace, a young woman wearing frog eye glasses and dressed in a cream-colored business outfit, with high-heeled leather shoes, was speaking with the emperor. Don't be alarmed. This is not another time traveler, but rather Princess Lingchong, who had just returned from a vacation at the Shu province lord's residence. Li Longji looked at Princess Lingchong and was silent for a long time. What kind of clothes are these? They look so pleasing to the eye. If my beloved consort wore them, it would certainly have a unique charm. Princess Lingchong dared not breathe too loudly. She thought, could it be that I was too indulgent during my stay at the lord's residence? Is my father going to punish me? The key is that I'm wearing this strange outfit in public. It's all that eunuch's fault for summoning me so hastily. I rushed back without even changing my clothes. The emperor was deep in thought about a certain alluring outfit when he noticed Princess Lingchong staring at him, frowning in silence. Suddenly, the princess knelt down. Oh dear. Lingchong has been too playful and made a foolish mistake. I have stayed in the Marquis of Shuzhou's residence for many days, wearing such peculiar attire. I asked for punishment. Hearing this, Emperor Li Longji regained his focus. I do not blame you. I just want to ask how your relationship with the Marquis of Shuzhou is now. The princess dared not lie in front of the emperor and honestly admitted, our relationship is very harmonious, like water and milk blending together. Li Longji was already aware of these matters, but he had called Lingchong back to help manage Zhang Xiaochuan. Now it seemed like the situation was reversed. Thus, he intended to reprimand Lingchong, but upon seeing her appearance, his mind wandered. Deliberately adopting a stern expression, Li Longji said, harmony is good, but you must also be mindful of your position. You are a royal princess. I will take your advice, father. Good to hear. By the way, what is the story behind your clothing? This is an outfit suggested by Zhang Xiaochuan. Quite embarrassing. Can I really say that? Princess Lingchong blushed and stammered. This is the attire designed by the Marquis of Shuzhou. I thought it looked nice, so I tried it on. I asked for your punishment. Li Longji waved his hand. I do not blame you. But this Marquis does not think of serving the country, always indulging in peculiar tricks. He is simply not acting like a proper son. Seeing Li Longji's reproach, Princess Lingchong quickly defended. No, father. The Marquis does care about national affairs. Li Longji interrupted. Enough, no need to defend him. Feeling quite exhausted, my daughter has always been obedient. Now just a few days in, she dares to speak back for that scoundrel. This move is a significant loss. I must find a way to recover. He then changed the subject. Let us drop this matter. You must have acquired many interesting things from the Marquis. Bring them for me to see. Li Longji narrowed his eyes. What? You will have someone fetch them right away. Shortly after, several guards carried in large boxes. Li Longji was quite pleased. As he opened the first box, his eyes lit up. Indeed, these are all items for women, and they look very intriguing, not only unique, but also beautiful. Seeing the emperor's excitement, Princess Lingchong instinctively guarded the items. Noticing her protective demeanor, Li Longji realized he had lost composure, and his rarely flushed face turned slightly red. Ahem. Lingchong, what are all these? Tell me about them. Once the topic was brought up, Princess Lingchong became animated. Father, look, these are clothes and shoes. This is a suit. This is a trench coat. This is sportswear. These are bell-bottom pants. Those are jeans, and this is a short skirt. Princess Lingchong explained while Li Longji listened, with Gao Lishir taking notes, occasionally checking to ensure nothing was missed. After introducing the first box, they opened another, which contained beauty products, further broadening Li Longji's horizons. The third box held several small electrical appliances, including a hairdryer, curling iron, hair removal device, and facial massager. Li Longji was reluctant to part with the hairdryer, but he ultimately had to give it up upon seeing Princess Lingchong's pleading eyes. When the last box arrived, Lingchong was just shy and silent, unwilling to open it. After Li Longji pressed her several times, she stammered. These are all personal items for girls. Li Longji blushed again and said, I understand, General Gao. Please register the items inside. I am a bit tired and will take a rest inside. Gao Lishir looked longingly at the emperor's back, silently retracting his elegantly poised fingers. Inwardly shouting, Your Majesty, I am a man too. Gao Lishir registered with tears in his eyes. Leggings, stockings, bras, sanitary pads. After Gao Lishir finished the registration, Princess Lingchong did not wait for him to report back to the emperor and directly called out, I dare not disturb Father's rest, so I will take my leave. Then, taking her boxes, she fled. Li Longji leisurely walked out, his expression stern as he said, This is simply unfilial. Look at what these are. At such a young age not thinking of serving the country, but studying these things. Gao Lishir hurriedly agreed, Your Majesty is absolutely right. Unexpectedly, the emperor's mood shifted from gloomy to bright, and he said with great interest, I know what stockings are, but what is this yoga pants, and what is a bra? This old servant doesn't know how to describe them. It would be better for the son-in-law to present a badge for your majesty's reference. Li Longji immediately sat up straight, his face expressionless, and said, Good, trouble General Gao to go to the son-in-law's residence and deliver my message. Just as Gao Lishir was about to agree and leave, Li Longji added, although the son-in-law is clever, his behavior is somewhat off. You might as well lift his house arrest and let him attend court normally tomorrow. If Zhang Xiaochuan heard these words, he would definitely curse Li Longji for being both authoritative and indulgent. Gao Lishir replied, Your Majesty, there is no early court session tomorrow due to the holiday. Li Longji said, No matter, just have him attend the early court as usual in the future. Convey this message today. Yes. Chapter 317. I want to stay home until I die. Zhang Xiaochuan's residence. What? The house arrest is lifted? After being under house arrest for a few days, I deeply realized my mistakes, and I feel that I actually, son-in-law, don't make it difficult for us. The emperor says it's lifted, so it's lifted. If you're unwilling, I can take you into the palace right now. Zhang Xiaochuan wore a generous expression of sacrifice. Fine. If it's lifted, then so be it. I accept it. Gao Lishir shook his head, unsure whether to laugh or be angry. This is the first time I've encountered a son-in-law so eager to be under house arrest. Zhang Xiaochuan felt bitter inside. You people don't understand anything. Staying home is a kind of happiness. It is a freedom from disturbance. Staying home is the most precious thing, the most joyful thing. And it's my ultimate goal. If I had a computer and a phone, I could stay home forever. Just thinking about that 200 square meter calculator makes me sigh. The road ahead is long. Gao Lishir had just said that lifting the house arrest was the first matter. What was the second? Unexpectedly, Gao Lishir did not speak directly, but waved to dismiss those around them, then cautiously took out a scroll of paper and handed it to Zhang Xiaochuan. Seeing his cautious demeanor, Zhang Xiaochuan thought it was some confidential document, but after opening it, he nearly fell over. Is the emperor too idle? Zhang Xiaochuan asked in confusion. What does this mean? Gao Lishir said seriously, These items are quite novel. Your Majesty, I present a badge for your consideration. Have you dared to mention the luggage? The prince retorted boldly. Although Gao Lishir did not know what a luggage was, he could understand Zhang Xiaochuan's implication and immediately reprimanded him. Zhang Xiaochuan patted Gao Lishir, saying, All right, Your Majesty isn't here, and there are no outsiders. What are you pretending for? The prince should speak cautiously. Gratitude towards the emperor comes from the heart. How can one act differently in private and public? Stop. Zhang Xiaochuan interrupted the spell he was casting immediately. I was wrong. It was my inappropriate words. Let's discuss serious matters. The prince's timely realization brings us great comfort. I wonder if the items to be presented can be taken back today. Zhang Xiaochuan feigned disbelief. Are you joking? This list has hundreds of items, and even bringing back one of each for the emperor wouldn't be enough. Gao Lishir nodded. Bringing back one of each is certainly not feasible. The main issue is that many items need to be tailored to individuals, especially clothing and shoes. Therefore, we need to take accurate measurements first. What is the problem? Just make a few sizes for each piece of clothing, right? It's not that I'm unwilling to cooperate. The main issue is that these items are not mass-produced. I've only made a few for my family. And if I need to produce them in bulk, I'll need to prepare. Besides, it wouldn't look good to present incomplete items to the emperor. Gao Lishir thought for a moment and agreed. As there were so many people around the emperor, deciding who should receive what would be difficult. He then asked, What do you suggest, Prince? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, I mean to establish a factory specifically for the emperor to produce these items. It will take some time, and we will need someone from the palace to manage it. That is easy to arrange. Just let me finish. These items are considered secret creations, so it's best if the manager is one of our own. I want Princess Lingchang to be in charge of this. Although Gao Lishir felt there was no big issue, he couldn't make the decision directly and had to report back to Li Longji. Naturally, Li Longji called Zhang Xiaochuan to Xingqing Palace to finalize the factory construction. The emperor would provide the funds, personnel, and land, while Zhang Xiaochuan would be responsible for the technology and materials, which would be supplied free of charge to the palace. However, any surplus could be sold, with the profits divided equally among the emperor, Princess Lingchang, and Zhang Xiaochuan. The emperor bluntly remarked that Zhang Xiaochuan was crafty, as the benefits for Lingchang ultimately came back to him. Despite saying this, the emperor still agreed. Watching Zhang Xiaochuan leave, Li Longji turned to Gao Lishir and said, Are you curious why I didn't ask about the vouchers? Gao Lishir was momentarily speechless. Clearly, the emperor wanted to address this matter. He followed up, Currently, the voucher issue is being talked about widely, and it's evident that someone is trying to undermine the princess vouchers. But why has your majesty not mentioned it? Do you not intend to assist the prince in case he truly cannot cope? The royal family's vouchers could, Li Longji replied. I have confidence in the prince. However, to be safe, I cannot let the royal family suffer losses. Go and check how many vouchers are in the treasury, including those held by the consorts, and let the prince set aside this portion. Gao Lishir now fully understood the emperor's intentions. He was accustomed to such indirect arrangements and, after agreeing, immediately set to work. The next day, everything happened as expected. Before the branch of the Tang Dynasty Technology Bank in Chang'an opened, it was already crowded outside. And it was clear that these people were there to exchange vouchers for coins. The first wave of exchangers were mostly retail customers, with many likely arranged by prominent merchants, as evidenced by their similar attire. A small portion consisted of ignorant individuals who were either misled or coerced. As soon as the doors of the Tang Dynasty Technology Bank opened, before the crowd could rush in, a group of individuals in uniform holding transparent shields rushed out from inside. They quickly formed a human wall, pushing the eager crowd back a yard and shouting at them to step away. Before the crowd could react and resist, a gap opened, and a person stepped out holding a cylindrical object in front of their mouth. Everything happened swiftly and abruptly, followed by a loud, ear-piercing sound. After the noise subsided, the person spoke in an unusually loud voice. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all guests of our Tang Dynasty Technology Bank, but there are rules to follow. Please look at your feet and line up according to the lines on the ground. Those who do not comply will not be served. Only then did the crowd notice the lines at their feet, which resembled queue lines from later times. Although they had never seen such a thing, the two parallel lines with footstep shapes every 30 centimeters were simple and easy to understand, and the crowd quickly divided into 5 lines. The person continued, "Thank you for your cooperation. Next, 5 people will enter at a time to complete their transactions, and we will allow the next group to enter afterward." However, orderly queuing was naturally impossible. If these individuals were to comply so easily, they wouldn't be there to cause trouble. Immediately, someone jumped out to voice objections. "You want us to queue, but what if those behind us can't exchange?" Others chimed in, "Exactly. We came together. Why shouldn't we enter together? We don't agree." "Right. We don't agree," they shouted, and the crowd began to scatter, preparing to rush in. Another piercing sound cut through the air, but its effect was surprisingly effective, stopping the crowd from dispersing. The person holding the cylindrical object smiled awkwardly. "This thing isn't very useful. It always makes strange noises." The crowd glared at him, thinking, "You can't be doing this on purpose." He continued, "I am the lobby manager here, equivalent to the store manager. My surname is Liu. You can call me Manager Liu. As the saying goes, there are no rules without order. Our bank operates strictly according to procedures. Do you have any objections?" At that moment, a person stepped out from the line, likely the leader of the group, and mockingly addressed Manager Liu. "Are you joking? I've never heard of such rules. What kind of business makes customers wait? Today we are entering together, and let us see what you can do about it." As he spoke, he waved his hand, and immediately several people stepped out to surround him. Manager Liu was not flustered. He immediately called the bank's security guards forward, and for a moment, both sides were in a standoff, the atmosphere tense and ready to erupt into chaos. However, the leader of the troublemakers suddenly retreated, as if receiving some sort of instruction, and obediently returned to the ranks without saying a word. Seeing that no one was causing trouble anymore, Manager Liu quickly arranged for the lines to move forward. Each group of 5 people was allowed to enter corresponding to 5 service windows. Since the bank's front was made entirely of glass, everyone could see what was happening inside. As soon as one group finished their exchange at a window, one person would be allowed to enter through the main door. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner, completely avoiding the anticipated chaotic rush. Not far from the bank, in a quiet room, the heads of the 9 major merchants were mostly gathered. Luo asked, "Brother Do, why didn't you let them confront the bank security? Wouldn't that have escalated the situation and made everyone aware that something was wrong with Zhang's bank?" He shook his head and replied, "No, we want to stir up a wave of exchanges for cash vouchers, creating a sense of panic. But if our people had started a fight right away, do you know what the outcome would be? What would happen? It would just escalate to the local authorities, and then we could still manipulate it. Causing a scene at the local authorities could be beneficial, but it depends on the situation. We don't want Zhang Xiaochuan's subordinates to end up in prison. If disputes arise and they directly shut down the bank, they could openly refuse to exchange cash vouchers." Dragging this out, Luo was taken aback and then sighed. "Ah, they say Brother Do is the leader among the 10 major merchants. I used to have my doubts. But after this incident, I realize your foresight is beyond my reach." Wang Yuanbao said, "But now there is no chaos. How can we attract attention and create panic?" He responded, "Indeed, this situation isn't effective. However, our stores have just started banning cash vouchers today, which will soon lead to speculation and people coming to the bank to verify. Of course, that is not enough. We need to arrange more people to queue up, handing out cash vouchers to make the lines longer." Wang Yuanbao exclaimed, "Brilliant. I'll arrange that right away. Let us make the line extend all the way to the Imperial City. Ha ha ha." Immediately, someone was assigned to make arrangements, and soon returned to report to Wang Yuanbao, "Master, we've sent another group to queue up, but the bank has also opened more counters and lines. So there are just more people outside, and everything is still orderly." Their voices were not lowered, so everyone could hear. Wang Yuanbao looked at Yi to ask what to do next. Yi said, "Then continue to arrange more people. They must have backup counters. But they will definitely be limited. As long as we keep adding people, they will soon be overwhelmed. Also, notify the stores to intensify the promotion of the ban on cash vouchers." In a grocery store in the West City, a middle-aged man in a green shirt, slightly angry, confronted the shopkeeper, saying, "Why can't I use the vouchers? I've always been able to use them here before. What does this mean? Are you intentionally making things difficult for me?" The shopkeeper replied, "Please don't be anxious. It's not that our shop is making things difficult. It's rumored that the authorities are going to ban these vouchers. Our owner is worried that if they are taken to some bank, they won't be able to be exchanged for coins, so we've stopped accepting them." "Is that so? Why Haven Tea, I heard that the authorities are going to impose a ban." The man questioned. "It must be true. Think about it. Have you ever used vouchers to pay your taxes?" The shopkeeper asked. The middle-aged man thought for a moment and replied, "Actually, I haven't used them for that." "Exactly. And it's not just our shop that has stopped accepting vouchers. Look at the sign hanging on our door. It says that starting today, we no longer accept them. If you go outside, you'll see that most shops have also stopped accepting them, the shopkeeper explained. The man panicked, saying, "Oh no, why can't I use them? I have several thousand coins worth of vouchers at home. That's a year's savings. It's all ruined now. Don't panic. I've heard that you can still exchange the vouchers for coins directly at the bank. You should hurry and go, because not many people know about it yet. If you wait too long, they might all be gone," the shopkeeper advised. The middle-aged man said, "These vouchers were given to me by my employer when I was working, claiming they could be used anywhere and were convenient. Who would have thought something like this would happen so soon?" Seeing the man's distress, the shopkeeper urged, "Sir, if you don't go soon, there might not be any left." "Right, I should hurry to exchange them for coins. I just don't know where the bank is." The man replied, "It's on South City Road, near the city gate. The bank is quite large, taking up almost half a block. You'll see it when you get there," the shopkeeper pointed out. The middle-aged man thanked him and hurried home to grab the vouchers before rushing towards South City. However, as soon as he exited the alley, he bumped into someone. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was someone he knew. "Isn't that the young master from the Zhao family? Why are you in such a hurry?" The young man replied, "Greetings, uncle. I'm heading to South City to exchange the family's vouchers for coins. I see you're also in a rush. Could it be?" The middle-aged man interrupted, "I'm also going to South City to exchange for coins. Why don't we go together?" "Great. Let us hurry. If we're late, it might be too late." "Yes, let us move quickly." When the two arrived at the Bank of Datong Technology in South City, they found the entrance crowded with people, including some security personnel. They thought to themselves that it was over, but learned that exchanges were still possible, only requiring them to wait in line. However, seeing such a long queue made them wonder how long it would take and whether they would still be able to exchange by the time their turn came. Similar situations to the middle-aged man's were unfolding in shops all over Chang'an. At this moment, the nearby restaurants and tea houses on South City Road were also packed with people. Some were worried that Zhang Xiaochuan's bank might not survive, so they came nearby to keep an eye on things. Others, like Dou Yi and his companions, wanted to see how long Zhang Xiaochuan could hold out, ready to add fuel to the fire at any moment. But more people were filled with panic and uncertainty regarding the situation. To be honest, these vouchers were indeed good. They were not only visually appealing but also durable, water-resistant, and easy to carry, making large transactions possible right on the spot. Now it feels like modern people have lost the ability to use mobile payments. Going back to cash is really uncomfortable. Therefore, these individuals do not want to exchange their vouchers for cumbersome coins, which is why they are observing the situation. Most of them are probably from the gentry or officials. They are not worried that Zhang Xiaochuan won't have money to give, as everyone knows how much land and how many mines he has purchased. If the bank really cannot provide coins, they can act later, because real estate is not going anywhere, even if it comes to worst. The products managed by Zhang Xiaochuan can still be purchased with vouchers, and those are in high demand and often cannot be bought even with money. In the quiet room where Dou Yi and others were, everyone looked at the coins on the table with surprise. Wang Yuanbao was the first to pick up a few and examine them. "Wow, these are new coins. The shine indicates they must have been minted no more than a month ago. The craftsmanship is excellent. The polishing and matte finish are very detailed, the patterns are uniform, and each coin looks the same, suggesting they were made from a standardized mold." While Wang Yuanbao spoke, everyone else also took a few coins to examine. Luo Huidao said, "Brother Wang, you truly live up to your name. Your description of these coins is so detailed. Your analysis is spot on. But why is the bank minting new coins when we received high-quality copper coins from them before? What are they striving for with this effort?" Dou Yi replied, "It is indeed puzzling. I don't understand either. Could it be that these coins are not pure? Someone get a scale, salt, vinegar, and a fire basin." Wang Yuanbao said, "Dou, are you going to verify the authenticity of the coins?" Dou Yi affirmed, "Exactly." Before long, someone brought the items Dou Yi requested, and everyone began to test the quality of the coins. However, after some operations, everyone fell silent. In terms of weight, hardness, and brightness, they were undoubtedly pure copper, but they were more durable, resistant to rust and corrosion than ordinary copper. Suddenly, Dou Yi exclaimed, "Not good. I think I know what he is planning." Everyone turned to look at Dou Yi as he asked the person who had gone out to gather information, what was the reaction of those who exchanged for these coins? The reaction? "Oh, those who are not with us said the craftsmanship of these coins is exquisite, definitely high-quality coins, even better than those minted by the official authority. They also mentioned wanting to keep some at home, share them with friends and relatives, or invite others to come exchange for some to save." Dou Yi's expression grew serious as he said, "This is bad." Wang Yuanbao asked, "What's bad about it?" "Those who exchanged are even introducing friends and relatives to come exchange. Isn't that exactly what we want?" Dou Yi countered, "Not at all. Our efforts to undermine the vouchers and trigger exchanges will lead to distrust in the vouchers and the bank, causing more people to exchange their vouchers for coins for peace of mind. But now it seems to be building trust in both the vouchers and the bank. Although these coins are well made, if there are too many, they will lose their novelty, but they will establish confidence in the vouchers, rendering all our efforts in vain." Luo Huidao expressed concern. "What should we do about this?" "Don't panic," Dou Yi replied, then looked at the person gathering information again. "Is the number of people queuing at that bank still increasing?" In response to the current situation, the number of queues has increased to 20. With nearly enough people to fill another area, and no additional queues are expected to form. It seems that 20 counters are their limit. How many people are outside now? There are about 1,000, and more are arriving. If nothing unexpected happens, the number will soon reach 2,000. Calculating in his mind, he thought. Based on what was previously mentioned, each counter can handle 5 exchanges every 15 minutes, which means 40 people in an hour. With 20 counters, that totals 800 people per hour. So, it looks like it will take 2 hours before the line clears. I initially thought they might be slow because they were worried about running out of money, but it turns out they are processing quickly. However, 2 hours is still a long time. Not everyone can afford to wait that long. Come here. Doe whispered a few words to a nearby person, who immediately took off to carry out the instruction. It was summer, and fortunately, being outdoors in ancient times wasn't such a big deal. However, waiting in line was another story. Although there were some shaded areas on the streets, being crammed together with many people and unable to move freely made it quite uncomfortable. As time passed, various restless emotions began to surface, especially since some were fanning the flames. A burly man with a thick beard exclaimed, "It's too hot. How long are we going to wait? My tongue is about to dry out. I can't wait any longer. I might as well rush in and grab what I need." "Who's with me?" A lean old man beside him grabbed the bearded man's arm, saying, "Hey, young man, don't be so impulsive. It's hot, yes, but look. The people in front are getting their exchanges. If you rush in, you might get beaten up, or worse, end up in the authorities' hands." To this, a scruffy-looking young man chimed in, "I think this guy is right. How long is this going to take? We can't even see the end of the line. And look at all the copper coins others are bringing out. How big can this bank be? What if we wait and get nothing? I don't care what anyone else thinks. I'm following this guy in. Count me in." More voices joined in. "Exactly. It's our own money. Why should we have to wait? Let us rush in. Rush in. Rush in." The bearded man and the scruffy-faced young man exchanged knowing glances, clearly pleased with their scheme. The next moment, they both shouted with fierce expressions, "Rush in. Rush in." As the crowd began to stir, a sudden burst of sound pierced through the chaos. "Excuse me. Sorry, this thing isn't working well and tends to make strange noises." The voice belonged to Manager Liu, along with his faulty megaphone. His announcement helped calm most of the crowd as he continued, "I know everyone is struggling in line, so I came to bring some warmth and relief in this heat." Chapter 320. Falling in love with iced tea on the second floor of the tech bank. Zhang Xiaochuan stood by the window, observing the situation outside the bank. He said, "Tingy, is that Manager Liu someone you used to oversee? Why is he talking so much nonsense?" "Erlang, he's one of your subordinates, and I'm also your subordinate. Why don't you?" "All right, just shut up." Zhang Xiaochuan felt a bit stifled. Indeed, Tingy's sharp tongue could hurt the most. So he stopped talking and continued to look down. He saw Manager Liu waving his hand, and immediately a group of women in identical uniforms emerged. Their ages ranging from their 20s to 30s or 40s. Behind these women were some young men, each pulling a pallet of goods with hydraulic carts. Manager Liu held a megaphone and continued, "Considering everyone has worked hard waiting in line, our chairman, the boss, has specially prepared some refreshing drinks, iced tea. Each person can receive 1 bottle for free. Our staff will distribute them, so please maintain your current formation. We will deliver the drinks to you, ensuring everyone gets one. Important reminder, free iced tea will be delivered, so please don't move around." At this point, some people had already received the unheard of iced tea and exclaimed, "It's really cold. It must have just come out of the ice house. This bottle is quite compact and feels sturdy yet flexible. I wonder how to open it." Manager Liu said, "Sorry, let me explain." The crowd shouted, "No explanations. Just get to the point." Okay. Hold the bottle with one hand, grip the cap with the other, and twist hard like this." While explaining, Manager Liu had someone demonstrate on the side. Those who understood couldn't wait to open it, and took a sip, exclaiming, "So delicious. Amazing." Clearly, the person paused for a moment, trying to express just how good it was, but at a loss for words. They could only continue shouting how good it was. However, everyone could tell and believe that it tasted great. Suddenly, the atmosphere became quite strange as the noise level rose, with many who hadn't figured it out asking the ones who had, "How do you open this? You do it like this. I can't twist it. How did you do it? How can you be so foolish? You can't even open a bottle? Look at me, like this, like this." Zhang Xiaochuan facepalmed, unable to watch any longer. When did opening a bottle of iced tea become a show-off moment? Finally, someone with a bit more knowledge took a sip of the iced tea and praised, "It's indeed delicious. Sweet at first, with a refreshing aftertaste and a hint of tea fragrance. It's clearly infused with mint, tea leaves, and sugar. The hardest part is that it's been chilled. It's definitely a summer relief. A bottle of iced tea, sweet and cooling to the heart. 2 more sips. It's so good. I can't get enough." It was evident that this person didn't have much literary talent, and their poetry was lacking too. To everyone's surprise, someone nearby exclaimed, "Good poetry. Good tea." After a few minutes of intense exchanges, most people had mastered the skill of opening the iced tea, and the staff were quickly distributing more bottles. In no time, the queue was filled with sounds of excitement. Gulp, gulp. Wow. Sounds of people drinking can be heard. In short, this iced tea not only extinguished the brewing anger, but also made many forget why they were there in the first place. Those who finished their drinks felt unsatisfied and began wanting more. The bottle was too small. It was gone in a single gulp. Was there any left? Indeed. This bottle was too small, and this bank was being too stingy. Couldn't they prepare larger bottles? However, There were also some reasonable voices. We can't say that, after all. It's free. Let's not be too greedy. How could one not be grateful to enjoy such a delicious drink in a lifetime? That seems to make sense. If worst comes to worst, I'll just buy it myself. Yes, I want to buy iced tea. I want to buy iced tea. The voices of wanting to purchase iced tea surged one after another, and the willingness to buy was exceptionally high. At this moment, Zhang Xiaochuan from the second floor rubbed his forehead. Go get him a loudspeaker. Why does it feel like he can manipulate that awful sound? Manager Lu appeared again. No problem, no problem. This iced tea is 100 coins per bottle. If you need to buy, please raise your hand, and staff will deliver it to you. Attention, it can only be purchased with vouchers. Before everyone rushed to buy, a shocked voice exclaimed, 100 coins for this small bottle, my goodness. So expensive. That's enough to buy a measure of wine. At this point, everyone paused. Realizing that this small bottle costing 100 coins was much more expensive than wine. It was similar to sour plum soup, just with a bit more sugar. This was indeed too expensive. Manager Lu said, expensive? I don't think so. You have to know that a lot of food additives are in it. Do you know why it's so sweet? That's because it contains sweeteners, aspartame, and fructose syrup. Aren't those more expensive than sugar? This is pure technology and craftsmanship. So, is 100 coins per bottle really expensive? Immediately, someone echoed, wow. There's actually technology and craftsmanship involved. It's worth it. It's worth it. 100 coins is definitely not expensive. I'll take one. Yes, yes. That's technology and craftsmanship. Give me one too. I want one too. In no time, iced tea was selling like crazy, and Doe was furious. Looking at the line of servants in front of him, he was filled with rage. The vouchers given to you were for exchanging for copper coins at the bank. How could you all use them to buy iced tea? You spent all the money and still dared to come back? Drag them all out and give them a good beating. Wang Yuanbao took a sip from a confiscated bottle of iced tea. I have to say, it's really quite good. Someone, go buy me 100 bottles. Doe, he shouted angrily, Brother Wang, why are you joining in the nonsense too? But it really is good. At this moment, the servant responsible for gathering information said, this cannot be bought. It is said that this iced tea is used internally by their group for cooling off, and it is not sold to the public. The people lining up today can only buy one bottle at a time. They must finish it before they can buy a second bottle. Now outside, Doe said, speak. Nowadays, everyone is discussing iced tea, and who still remembers the matter of exchanging vouchers? Many people have already spent their vouchers on the spot, and now trying to incite panic seems impossible. As Doe felt a sharp pain in his throat, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. I've schemed so much, yet I ended up defeated by this bottle of beverage. Since creating panic didn't work. Let's get serious. I suspect Zhang Xiaochuan's actions are all attempts to cover up his intentions. He must have limited resources in that bank of his. Everyone, prepare to go back today, and tomorrow bring your vouchers. We will empty his pathetic bank and see how he continues to play his tricks. Chapter 321. Cash can impact. Standing on the second floor of the bank, Zhang Xiaochuan watched the crowd gradually disperse and sighed inwardly. Technology and fierce action are truly impressive. They never fail to deliver. Tung Yi said, Lang, this crisis is over. Not yet. Who says this is a crisis? At most, it's just a minor episode. These people can create crises for me. They are a bunch of short-sighted fools. Before Tung Yi could respond, someone reported that there were visitors from the palace, summoning Zhang Xiaochuan to meet the emperor. Upon hearing that the emperor was summoning him, Zhang Xiaochuan guessed it must be related to the iced tea. So he instructed to prepare a few boxes of iced tea to take along before heading to the palace. In the Xiqing Palace, Li Longji gulped down another bottle of iced tea and smacked his lips, exclaiming how refreshing it was. The nearby maidens and eunuchs were salivating, unable to contain their excitement. Zhang Xiaochuan watched, astonished, thinking, if this emperor drinks too much iced tea and suffers a sudden death, would he be considered the greatest emperor in history? At that moment, Li Longji's voice called out, Zhang Longzhong, do you know your mistake? Zhang Xiaochuan thought, Longzhong? What about Zhang Dafu? Is the emperor being polite? Usually, he calls me esteemed son-in-law or beloved minister. Now he demotes me to a fifth-rank title just because he is unhappy. Zhang Xiaochuan hurriedly expressed his fear. I know my mistake. Then he silently muttered, if you ask me what my mistake is, I'll curse your whole family. If you ask me what my mistake is, then, fortunately, the emperor didn't press him but instead said, it's good that you know your mistake. You said I have given you my precious pearls. What good things do you have that you don't think of me? Hearing this made Zhang Xiaochuan feel uneasy, and he cautiously asked, Your Majesty, are you referring to this iced tea? Li Longji replied, of course. Why wouldn't you think of me for such a refreshing treasure? Zhang Xiaochuan sighed inwardly, thinking, this foolish emperor doesn't he appreciate good intentions? This modified iced tea has more additives than in the future, and the sugar content is incredibly high. An average person wouldn't drink it more than twice a year, so it's not a big deal. But for you, drinking it every day is problematic. He advised, Your Majesty, it's not that I don't think of you. It's just that this drink has many technological additives. And consuming too much isn't good for your health. Nonsense. Isn't it said that technology and fierce action create rare treasures? Why does it change when it comes to me? This was a difficult point to clarify, so Zhang Xiaochuan had to say. When technology and fierce action apply to other things, it refers to good items, but when it comes to food, it refers to bad items. In short, drinking less is harmless, but drinking more. Li Longji burped and set down the iced tea he was about to pick up. He didn't believe Zhang Xiaochuan's words, but such a sweet drink shouldn't be consumed too much. Suddenly, his demeanor shifted from friendly to stormy. Zhang Xiaochuan. Do you know your crime? Zhang Xiaochuan was startled and knelt down immediately. After all, he was his father-in-law, so kneeling now didn't carry much psychological burden. Goodness. Not even a fifth rank left, just calling names directly. What the hell is this? This time I really wasn't prepared. I'd better admit my mistake first. At least show a proper attitude. I, a humble minister, know my guilt. Please punish me, your majesty. Yes, punishment is warranted. Now tell me what crime you have committed. I really can't avoid this part. Just say what you have to say. Why the roundabout way? Zhang Xiaochuan bowed down again. I am foolish. Please clarify for me, your majesty. Do you recognize this item? Then they heard a clinking sound, as a copper coin was tossed in front of Zhang Xiaochuan. Upon seeing it, he thought, isn't this the copper coin I minted? Suddenly, I understand most of it. Zhang Xiaochuan's actions were considered private minting of currency, which would be a minor issue in modern times. However, in ancient times, it was different. Although the law prescribed a death penalty for this, in reality, it was quite lenient. Who among the gentry and merchants could claim they had never minted their own coins? In the early Tang dynasty, there were indeed strict controls on private minting, but by the time of Emperor Xuanzong, it had become as lax as a prostitute's waistband, just waiting to be pulled apart. The main reason for this was the societal conditions. With a stable society and unprecedented economic prosperity, there was a severe shortage of currency, leading to a proliferation of privately minted coins. What was most detestable was that most of these private coins were mixed with lead, iron, and other cheap metals. Zhang Xiaochuan's privately minted coins were exceptionally good, even better than the official ones. He initially thought that although he mixed other materials into the copper coins, what he produced was superior to the official minting, so he shouldn't be punished, especially since others who minted inferior coins faced no consequences. Little did he expect that today the emperor would hold him accountable for this. However, it was more of a warning. If he truly wanted to punish him, he would have arrested him directly. Yet, the fact that he was still here negotiating with the emperor suggested it wasn't a genuine inquiry for punishment, but an attitude that was still necessary to maintain. Thus, Zhang Xiaochuan honestly replied, Your Majesty, I recognize this item. It is the copper coin minted by my factory. Good courage. You dare to admit it. Do you know your crime? I am at your mercy. I have no complaints. Seeing Zhang Xiaochuan so straightforward, Emperor Lilongji decided not to press further and instead asked, How many of these new coins do you have? Zhang Xiaochuan did not dare to say directly. Instead silently held up 3 fingers. Lilongji speculated, 300,000? No, it must be more than what was exchanged today. Could it be 3 million? Zhang Xiaochuan shook his head. 3,000. When he uttered these 2 words, Lilongji felt his heart nearly stop. The next moment, Zhang Xiaochuan nodded silently, and Lilongji stumbled back a few steps, sitting down heavily on the dragon throne. Is there really 30 million new coins? As he uttered these words, Lilongji's lips trembled, as if he had exhausted all his strength. It was no wonder he was so agitated. After all, the court minted only about 300,000 coins a year, and 30 million was equivalent to nearly a century's worth of minting by the court. In truth, Lilongji was not only shocked by the sheer amount of money, but also wary of the influence such immense wealth could give Zhang Xiaochuan. This is a person who possesses the power to overthrow an empire. Such a person cannot be allowed to exist. Danger must be nipped in the bud. But how can one possess such wealth and still calmly reveal it to me? Is there no backing? No, even with backing, this person must not be allowed to live. But how did he amass such a vast fortune in such a short time? Perhaps I should first imprison him for interrogation and then execute him. No, I am the sovereign. Why should I act like a petty person, and why should I fear a mere child? The hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Lilongji sat there like a statue, his face alternating between blue and red, his expression shifting from anger to calmness to dejection. At that moment, no one dared to speak, for the next second could mean death. Zhang Xiaochuan, too, did not dare to act recklessly. He was puzzled about what was troubling the emperor. His thoughts were the opposite of Lilongji's. To Zhang Xiaochuan, that 30 million coins belonged to others, and he was just a manager who could not act arbitrarily, which is why he had spoken without hesitation. After an unknown amount of time, Lilongji let out a long sigh and said, Forget it. Chapter 322. Your Majesty, do you have copper? What ultimately forced Lilongji to back down was fear. The so-called hero in decline. Lilongji no longer possessed the decisiveness he had when dealing with Empress Wei and Princess Taiping. He had lost the ambition he had when he first ascended the throne. Now, he sought stability, so when a person desires something, they tend to imagine a scenario that aligns with their needs. Lilongji believed Zhang Xiaochuan was controllable, so there was no need to sever ties. Otherwise, that 30 million coins could truly bring turmoil to the empire. Moreover, Zhang Xiaochuan was a person of integrity who could distinguish right from wrong, so there were peaceful ways to handle the situation, but some necessary pressure was still required. Suddenly, Lilongji straightened up, his face showing a fierce expression, and said, Someone, arrest this scoundrel. Zhang Xiaochuan was taken aback, thinking, Lilongji really intends to take action against me. Fortunately, I have an emergency plan. He quickly grasped the jade pendant hanging from his waist. It was a signaling device for activating his emergency plan. Once pressed, the strongest military force he commanded would rush to the location of the signal without hesitation. In a split second, Zhang Xiaochuan noticed Gao Lisher giving him a signal, clearly indicating that he should not act rashly. Although the emperor wanted to arrest him, he did not say anything about killing him, and Zhang Xiaochuan did not want to escalate the situation immediately, so he relaxed his grip on the jade pendant. Indeed, the guards seemed to understand the emperor's intentions. They did not hold Zhang Xiaochuan tightly. He cooperatively shouted, "I acknowledge my mistake. Please spare my life, Your Majesty." Li Longji was pleased with Zhang Xiaochuan's performance and sternly said, "I am not unfeeling. If you hand over this wealth to the court and eliminate the potential threat, I can naturally spare you." "Wait, Your Majesty, you are asking me to hand over these 30 million coins?" Li Longji glared. "What? You are unwilling?" Zhang Xiaochuan wanted to curse out loud. "Isn't this outright robbery?" However, sensing that the emperor must have misunderstood something, he explained, "Your Majesty, it's not that I am unwilling. It's just rest assured, I understand your concerns. Actually, I am doing this for your own good. As the saying goes, wealth not matched to one's position will bring disaster. With so much wealth, can you really keep it safe? Hand it over to the court, and I will grant you titles and hereditary nobility, along with fertile lands, which is far more substantial than these things." Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Your Majesty, are you misunderstanding something?" "What misunderstanding? This 30 million coins are not my money at all." "Nonsense. Isn't this money all kept in your bank? How can you say it's not your money?" "Your Majesty, I am merely safeguarding it. Let me explain slowly." Zhang Xiaochuan explained to Li Longji the principle of gold reserves backing currency issuance in later generations. After listening, Li Longji suddenly understood. "So you mean that this money is equivalent to all the currency in circulation, which means it can only be viewed but not spent, and comes with risks?" "Exactly. And there's bad news. The total value of the currency I've issued is 60 million coins, while I only have 50 million coins in cash and bullion. So actually, you've overissued 10 million coins. You are quite bold. Your Majesty, please remain calm. It's not exactly overissuing. I still have land, factories, mines, and some undisclosed secrets, which add up to more than 10 million coins. However, I currently have almost no cash on hand, and even no debts." Li Longji expressed concern. "So if this continues, your bank's cash will be completely exchanged, and then my..." Realizing he had become a bit selfish mid-sentence, Li Longji felt awkward, thinking about his own needs when there were larger issues at stake. However, he was pleased with Zhang Xiaochuan's words. Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "In fact, I have set up a separate treasury specifically to handle royal exchanges. As long as your Majesty needs it, you can exchange it any time." Li Longji was very satisfied with this and waved his hand for the guards to release Zhang Xiaochuan. Zhang Xiaochuan pretended to stretch his limbs. Li Longji looked at him with disdain. "Do you think I don't know they were holding you tightly?" "Your Majesty." Gao Lishir suddenly interrupted. "Your Majesty, the water has cooled. Let me bring you a fresh cup." Zhang Xiaochuan expressed disdain. "You just wanted to drink ice water. And now you say the water is cold. Gao Lishir, you are something else." Li Longji maintained a serious expression. "Thank you, General Gao." Then he turned to Zhang Xiaochuan and said, "Let us set aside the issue of copper coin reserves for now. Now tell me how you managed to produce so many new coins in such a short time. If you don't explain well, I won't let you off easily." "Am I hearing things? Didn't you just want me to step down? How did the topic come back around?" It seems Gao Lishir's reminder was purely for the emperor's consideration. Zhang Xiaochuan said, "This is because I used a stamping method for coin minting, which is completely different from the old mold casting. This method is highly efficient." Seeing the emperor's confused expression, Zhang Xiaochuan briefly explained the coin manufacturing process using stamping lines from later generations. After listening, Li Longji asked, "How fast is this stamping minting?" Zhang Xiaochuan estimated and said, "One production line can produce about 20,000 copper coins a day without stopping, and I have 10 production lines." "What?" Although there had been speculation before, when Zhang Xiaochuan actually mentioned it, Li Longji couldn't help but exclaim, "Are you talking about that thing that can produce 20,000 coins a day? You actually have 10 of them. Which means that would be 200,000 coins a day." "Yes," Zhang Xiaochuan confirmed. Li Longji was extremely excited. "If we could get that production line here. 20,000 coins a day, 2 million in 10 days, 70 million coins in a year. Wouldn't that mean I could spend as I please?" "Calm down. We need to figure out a way to get it." Li Longji subtly signaled to Gao Lishir to assist. Gao Lishir quickly spoke up, "Your Majesty, I believe such a coin production speed is a national treasure, and letting it fall into private hands is not good for the state." Zhang Xiaochuan shot a sideways glance at Gao Lishir. "Your calculations are already showing on my face. If you want it, just say so." Before Li Longji could respond, Zhang Xiaochuan proactively said, "I believe what Master Gao said is very reasonable. I am willing to donate a production line for the court's minting use." Li Longji was somewhat dissatisfied. "While your offer is generous, only donating one production line is clearly a retreat disguised as an advance. You want to keep the other 9 production lines for yourself. One production line only produces a few million coins a year. How can that work?" He then said, "My loyal minister, your dedication is commendable, but you have only offered me 1 production line. Is that all?" Zhang Xiaochuan replied honestly, "It's not that I'm unwilling. It's just that, Your Majesty, do you have that much copper to produce coins?" Silence fell over the entire hall, and Li Longji felt so embarrassed he wanted to find a hole to hide in. "How could I forget that making coins requires copper? But the court doesn't have that much copper. I don't have that much copper." After a long pause, a furious shout broke the silence. "Get out." Chapter 323. Large amount exchange without queuing after leaving the South Sun Hall. Zhang Xiaochuan noticed that Gao Lishir had followed him and couldn't help but complain. "What is wrong with His Majesty? I didn't say anything. Why did he suddenly kick me out?" Gao Lishir looked sorrowful. My prince, you really dare to speak. You scared us all. If it were anyone else, their head would have rolled by now. Don't try to fool me. I just asked a simple question. Why would they want to cut off my head? Gao Lisher thought to himself. You put the emperor in such an awkward position that he wants to hide. Even if one thinks of such things, it's best to bring them up more delicately, perhaps by saying something else that leads the emperor to make the connection himself. Speaking directly like this makes it hard for him. Sai, let us just skip this topic. I don't understand this either. I'm just here to see you off. My prince. Seeing that Gao Lisher didn't want to continue the topic, Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly remembered the earlier signal from Gao Lisher and wondered if he knew what the jade pendant was for. But why hadn't he reported it to the emperor? He picked up the pendant and weighed it in his hand, but Gao Lisher remained expressionless, seemingly unaware of its purpose. He then asked, Master Gao, when the emperor sent someone to fetch me, why did you stop me? Did you know what I was planning? Gao Lisher answered vaguely, I didn't stop anything. Acting like that in front of the emperor would be asking for trouble. At that moment, I saw you were determined and didn't know what you were going to do, so I couldn't have possibly stopped you. Zhang Xiaochuan thought. It seems that Gao Lisher is judging from his own expression, guessing that I am about to do something dangerous. He knows that the emperor isn't really going to hold me accountable, which is why he told me to endure. Given today's situation, Gao Lisher absolutely understands Li Longji better than anyone else, and he is the only one in the entire Tang dynasty who can manage Li Longji. I must find a way to deal with him. Zhang Xiaochuan didn't say much, just silently handed a stack of vouchers to Gao Lisher and left the palace. When he returned to the bank, he still saw a long queue, so he asked, what's going on? Didn't they disperse already? Teng Yi replied, Erlang. This is still your fault. Zhang Xiaochuan coldly interrupted, shut up, Manager Liu, you speak. Manager Liu said, Chairman, these people are lining up to buy iced tea. Zhang Xiaochuan was somewhat taken aback. He really didn't expect iced tea to be so popular. The key point is that it sells for 100 won per bottle, and yet people are still eager to buy it, which shows that the Tang dynasty indeed has its share of wealthy people. However, we can't turn the bank into a milk tea shop. So he said, Manager Liu, go outside and inform them that the bank will no longer sell iced tea. But since everyone likes it so much, we will sell it in the shops in the east and west markets. Also, notify Dou Yao and Wang Yuanqing to come and pick up the goods. Manager Liu acknowledged and left. Zhang Xiaochuan said to Teng Yi, I got up too early for morning court today, so I'm going to catch up on some sleep. Don't wake me unless it's something very serious. Teng Yi agreed. But just as Zhang Xiaochuan lay down and fell asleep, a noisy commotion erupted outside, making him almost lose his temper. Teng Yi, what's going on? Why is it so noisy? Teng Yi replied honestly, it's Dou Yi and Wang Yuanbao along with a group of merchants. And they brought dozens of large boxes to exchange for copper coins. They don't want to queue, so they are arguing with Manager Liu. Oh, why didn't you wake me? You know I was waiting for them. Teng Yi looked innocent. Just those few people. Can it be considered a big deal? You said not to wake you unless it's something serious, and I was just following your orders. Zhang Xiaochuan pinched the bridge of his nose. Go and invite Madame Xiaoyao over. From now on, you are only responsible for security and should speak as little as possible. Teng Yi replied, understood. But I didn't say anything. It's you who didn't specify. Go. Zhang Xiaochuan originally wanted to bring Teng Yi along because his combat power was high. And in situations where force couldn't be used, he could still inflict psychological damage on the enemy. Unfortunately, this guy's mental attacks don't differentiate between friend and foe, which is frustrating. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan arrived in the hall, he saw Dou Yi arguing with a group of people. When everyone saw Zhang Xiaochuan, they rushed over to pull him into the discussion. After waiting for the crowd to quiet down a bit, Zhang Xiaochuan said, everyone, please don't rush. Manager Liu, you speak first. Dou Yi immediately retorted, guests should be prioritized. Why should you speak first? Zhang Xiaochuan bluntly replied, am I being protective? Do I need to handle this? Faced with Zhang Xiaochuan's shamelessness, Dou Yi could only yield and gestured for Manager Liu to speak first. Manager Liu said, Lord Dou and everyone want to exchange vouchers for copper coins. I asked them to line up, but they refused and have been quite critical of me. Zhang Xiaochuan looked at Dou Yi and asked, is what my subordinate said true? Before Dou Yi could speak, Wang Yuanbao jumped out and said, Lord of Shuzhou, this cannot be blamed on us. The amount we want to exchange is enormous, not like those people outside who are queuing up for just a few coins. It seems inappropriate to have us wait for such a large sum. Besides, I fear your bank may not even have enough coins to exchange for us. The sooner we exchange, the sooner we can close, which would save those outside from waiting, right? I'm just speaking frankly, don't take offense, ha ha ha. At this moment, the merchants behind them agreed, saying, Mr. Wang speaks wisely. They probably want us to queue because they are afraid of running out of coins if we all exchange at once. There's no need to apologize. Exactly. Zhang Xiaochuan ignored their mockery and turned to Manager Liu. They are here for a large amount of exchange. Manager Liu replied with grievance. They didn't mention it was a large exchange, otherwise, I wouldn't have stopped them. Zhang Xiaochuan then looked at Dou Yi and asked, did you mention it was a large exchange? Dou Yi felt he had overlooked something important, so he explained, we indeed did not mention a large exchange. The key is we don't know what constitutes a large exchange. To his surprise, Zhang Xiaochuan understood very well and said, well, you're not wrong, Dou Gong. Let me explain. Simply put, any exchange amount exceeding 1,000 coins is considered a large exchange. Not only do large exchanges not require queuing, but there is also a special reception room. Normally, Only those exchanging over 1,000 coins can enter the VIP room, but today, as an exception, everyone who came with Do Gong can accompany me to the VIP room. What do you think, Do Gong? Do-e initially thought there would be many restrictions for large exchanges, but he was surprised to learn there was no queue in a special reception room. He felt it was somewhat unbelievable, but followed Zhang Xiaochuan upstairs to a large room. In the center of the room was a huge oval table that could seat about 20 people, with only a few floral decorations, making the overall space feel a bit empty. Once they entered, a maid brought over many stools resembling small benches and placed them in the empty area for others to sit. Seeing this, Do-e instinctively took a seat with Wang Yuanbao and a few other heads of families on one side, while the smaller merchants stood at the back without sitting down. Do-e turned to Zhang Xiaochuan, who was seated across from him, and asked, "Does the Lord of Shuzhou wish to negotiate?" Do-e's question left Zhang Xiaochuan puzzled. "Aren't you here to exchange coins? What negotiation?" Do-e assumed Zhang Xiaochuan was feigning calm and trying to cover something up. "Lord of Shuzhou, are you truly not interested in negotiation? You should know we have a considerable amount of vouchers with us. If you cannot provide enough coins, don't blame us for being impolite." Zhang Xiaochuan seemed not to understand the underlying threat and warmly invited, "No rush on the exchange. Come, let us first enjoy some snacks. This pearl milk tea is a treat only for VIPs." As he spoke, he took a cup for himself, inserted a straw, and began to sip. The maids helped insert straws for Do-e and the others. None of them had ever seen pearl milk tea, and they all began to sip eagerly. But Do-e refrained from drinking, thinking Zhang Xiaochuan was just stalling for time, while he furrowed his brow, pondering how to negotiate with Zhang Xiaochuan next. Come, everyone. Try this. This is crispy egg tart, a perfect match with milk tea, something you can't find outside. Watching the scene gradually turn into a tea party and his teammates looking like they were starving, Do-e couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Enough!" His teammates slightly restrained themselves, while Zhang Xiaochuan appeared completely unfazed and asked, "Are you in a hurry? If so, I can arrange for someone to exchange for you first." Do-e, puzzled, replied, "Do you really want to exchange? Don't you know that I don't know how many vouchers you have? But didn't you come here just to exchange for copper coins? That doesn't seem to be a problem, does it? I'm ready to exchange. So why the fuss?" Do-e was quite troubled. Ever since he arrived, the atmosphere fell off. Normally, Zhang Xiaochuan should have guessed that they had a large number of vouchers, at least over 10 million. Under normal circumstances, Zhang Xiaochuan would have hesitated and refused the exchange with various excuses, like the tea snacks preparation being a delaying tactic. But now, he readily agreed to the exchange. So what was the point of the delay? Although Do-e couldn't figure it out, since Zhang Xiaochuan agreed to the exchange, he decided to proceed. He said, "In that case, I'll go first. I hope the Marquis of Shuzhou won't go back on his word." Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "Of course. How much do you wish to exchange?" Do-e held up a hand, 5 million. After that, Do-e and his teammates looked at Zhang Xiaochuan with amusement, expecting him to beg for mercy in the next moment. However, this time Zhang Xiaochuan remained silent. Instead, a woman beside him spoke up, "Dear customer, hello? I am your dedicated customer service representative. You wish to exchange 5 million copper coins, which is considered a super large amount. Since it's your first exchange, let me explain a bit. Our exchange for copper coins is divided into 3 categories based on the amount: regular, large, and super large. Regular amounts refer to under 1,000, handled directly at the lobby counter, but may require queuing in case of many people. Large amounts refer to 1,000 to 30,000, which will be handled in a special VIP room. Super large amounts refer to over 30,000, which require an appointment." Although Do-e understood only partially, he grasped that super large amounts need an appointment. He interrupted, "What do you mean, super large amounts can't be handled today?" He directed his questioning tone at Zhang Xiaochuan, who remained silent, and it was the customer service representative who responded, "It shouldn't be understood that way. Let me explain further. The process for handling super large amounts is as follows. First, we need to confirm that you have that many vouchers. Then we will sign a contract with you to agree on a time for the exchange. Typically, for amounts from 30,000 to 100,000, it takes 7 days. From 100,000 to 300,000, it takes 15 days. From 300,000 to 1 million, it takes 30 days. And for amounts over 1 million, it takes 90 days. As the dedicated customer service representative finished speaking, Do-e was about to say something, but she suddenly added, "It's important to note that once the amount exceeds 1 million, we will not accept other super large exchanges during the preparation period." Do-e roughly understood, but found it hard to accept, so he confirmed, "What you mean is that if I exchange 5 million coins now, I have to wait 90 days to receive the copper coins, and during this period, no one else can exchange more than 30,000 coins?" The dedicated customer service replied, "Yes, you understood correctly. Would you like to start the exchange now? If so, please provide." Do-e gestured for her to stop talking. He had anticipated that Zhang Xiaochuan would be difficult, but he didn't expect him to be so refreshingly articulate. If he said no exchanges, the other party agreed to exchange. If he said yes, then he had to wait 3 months. He just wanted to curse, but unfortunately, Zhang Xiaochuan was a third-grade marquis and a prospective son-in-law. Do-e couldn't directly curse, but he couldn't let his momentum weaken. So he questioned Zhang Xiaochuan, "Marquis of Shuzhou, isn't this a bit too much? Initially, it was said that these vouchers could be exchanged at any time. Are you going back on your word?" Do-e needed an explanation. Zhang Xiaochuan replied, "An explanation is impossible. As soon as Zhang Xiaochuan opened his mouth, Dou Yi felt like exploding, but Zhang Xiaochuan pressed his hand to signal Dou Yi to calm down and continued, I know you're anxious, but please don't rush. The reason we set these rules is out of necessity, not intentional. Seeing Dou Yi and the person behind him about to explode again, Zhang Xiaochuan decisively got to the point. The main reason we established this reservation rule is that such a large amount of copper coins takes time and effort to count, move, and transport. Moreover, each bank has a limited cash reserve, and such a large sum needs to be transported from the headquarters vault. Therefore, needing some time is unavoidable. Dou Yi said, even so, I can understand 3 to 5 days, or even 10 days. Why does it need to be 3 months? Zhang Xiaochuan replied, that is not quite right. First of all, since you are here to handle this, we need to confirm the authenticity of the vouchers, and once confirmed, we have to register them. After registration, the bank's finance department needs to verify, and then the manager must approve it. After the bank manager reviews it, it still needs to be approved by the head office. Zhang Xiaochuan went on to list dozens of approval steps, and this was just for confirming the vouchers. He continued, next, we also need to sign an exchange contract, and the exchange contract also needs. Enough. Dou Yi was overwhelmed. He realized that if he let Zhang Xiaochuan continue with this logic, 90 days might not even be enough. So he decisively conceded, I can wait for these 90 days. But since this voucher has no fixed ownership, I'll just gather them all together for the exchange. After saying this, Dou Yi felt pleased, thinking he had finally found a loophole to turn the situation around, and Zhang Xiaochuan should have nothing to say now. To his surprise, Zhang Xiaochuan looked at the dedicated customer service beside him, who immediately stood up and politely said, Dear guest, the maximum limit for a single large exchange is 5 million coins. Dou Yi also stood up abruptly, Marquis of Shuzhou, you are going too far. Chapter 325. There is also a handling fee. Dou Yi was now almost furious. Zhang Xiaochuan was being too devious. Requiring an appointment for large exchanges was one thing. But now there was also a limit on the amount. Fortunately, it is ancient times with a strict hierarchy. If it were modern times, someone would have already yelled at Zhang Xiaochuan. Facing Dou Yi's anger, Zhang Xiaochuan maintained his composure and said, Do you know what 5 million coins represent? Just counting and transporting that many coins is a huge task. Moreover, my bank also needs to operate normally. An exchange of such a large amount is quite rare, and I need to allocate a significant workforce to handle this matter. Therefore, achieving 5 million coins in 90 days is the absolute limit, while maintaining normal bank operations. Dou Yi wanted to argue, but found Zhang Xiaochuan's reasoning quite valid. However, he reminded himself that he must not back down. He was there to stir up trouble, and could not agree with Zhang Xiaochuan. After thinking for a moment, he said, Everyone has their difficulties. I urgently need the coins. Besides, these strange rules you mentioned, are they not just tactics to prevent us from exchanging vouchers? He added disrespectfully, This is somewhat unreasonable behavior from the Marquis of Shuzhou. His words were indeed quite disrespectful, but Zhang Xiaochuan showed no signs of being offended. Instead, he turned to the customer service representative. The female representative stood up skillfully and, in a voice that was both elegantly respectful and somewhat mechanical, said, Dear esteemed guest, all the terms we discussed were established at the outset, and we have posted the complete content on the wall in the hall. If it's not too much trouble, you may send someone to the hall to confirm. Although Dou Yi knew she wouldn't lie, he still arranged for someone to confirm in the hall. A moment later, he received confirmation and felt an overwhelming sense of frustration as Zhang Xiaochuan's past actions flashed through his mind. Initially, everyone thought Zhang Xiaochuan was foolish for exchanging those incredible techniques for money. Like depleting resources, the top 10 wealthy merchants were pleased with themselves for spending 10 million coins to obtain those technical documents, only to realize at the recent press conference that what they had purchased with their entire savings were outdated techniques from Zhang Xiaochuan. The term entire savings referred to coins. The top 10 merchants had pooled together 10 million coins, which was their maximum limit. While 2 million coins might not be significant for these wealthy merchants, whose lands, mines, and treasures could rival nations, coins were different. They were widely used as currency, and thus their stocks were limited. They had only pooled that much to buy Zhang Xiaochuan's techniques. Otherwise, they would not have given away so many coins. And now it felt like they had been deceived by him. Most of the vouchers they held were exchanged for land and minerals from Zhang Xiaochuan. At that time, everyone believed they could exchange coins back from Zhang Xiaochuan, or at least get their land back. They had not hesitated to employ coercive tactics before. Who would have thought that in such a short time, Zhang Xiaochuan had risen from obscurity to a third-grade marquis and a prospective prince consort? Thus, coercive tactics would not work, and they could only use methods within the rules, which now seemed quite difficult to execute. Dou Yi suddenly felt that this young man before him was deeply calculating, which was truly frightening. From the beginning with the industrial park construction to the transfer of technology, he had already plotted this far ahead. If Zhang Xiaochuan knew what Dou Yi was thinking, he would definitely feel wronged. At that time, Zhang Xiaochuan only allocated resources to that part of the technology tree, so he used it to exchange for money to develop infrastructure, as his goal from the beginning was to develop industry and commerce. However, in the face of betrayal from the 9 wealthy merchants, Zhang Xiaochuan decided to use the technology he had originally prepared for their upgrades against them, which was truly a case of reaping what one sows. While Dou Yi was deep in thought, the dedicated customer service representative kindly brought out several booklets. Dear esteemed guest, here is our business manual. which details the procedures and requirements for various services. The content was identical to what was hanging in the lobby. Dou Yi quickly took it and flipped through, finding the page for large exchanges. The content matched exactly what had been mentioned earlier, but as he continued reading, Dou Yi's eyes widened in shock. Seeing Dou Yi's expression, Wang Yuanbao immediately took a look as well, and his expression mirrored Dou Yi's. Dou Yi's face turned pale as he said, "Lord of Shuzhou, what do you mean by these handling fees? Is this how you conduct business? Isn't it too unseemly?" It turned out that according to the business manual, both large and extra-large exchanges incurred handling fees, 0.5 for large exchanges and 1 for extra-large exchanges. This time, Zhang Xiaochuan did not look at the customer service representative. Instead, he replied, "Isn't it a bit presumptuous of you, Dogong? I also have 2 questions for you. First, have you ever used flying money? Second, have you ever minted copper coins?" These 2 questions left Dou Yi momentarily speechless. Flying money, in simple terms, involves depositing copper coins in one merchant in one location and withdrawing them from the same merchant in another location. There are handling fees involved, typically between 2 to 5, with the handling fees for the Cordes flying money being even higher. Zhang Xiaochuan's bank could serve the same purpose, so a fee of 0.5 or even 1 really isn't excessive, especially considering that small exchanges had no fees at all. As for minting, as mentioned earlier, which gentry and merchants in this era had not minted their own coins. However, minting coins is time-consuming and costly. Now, Zhang Xiaochuan was offering entirely new copper coins, so charging a handling fee was not unreasonable at all. When calculated this way, Zhang Xiaochuan was not only justified but also a conscientious businessman. Dou Yi had no rebuttal left and could only accept the handling fees, but he still tried hard to negotiate for the 5 million yuan limit, hoping Zhang Xiaochuan would raise it. To his surprise, Zhang Xiaochuan actually relented, increasing the limit to 30 million yuan. This agreement left Dou Yi unsettled. He never expected Zhang Xiaochuan to actually have 30 million yuan in copper coins. If they were all new coins, that would be terrifying. Just when Dou Yi thought everything was settled, Zhang Xiaochuan's words sent his blood pressure skyrocketing again. Zhang Xiaochuan said, "Dogong may not have noticed, but there is also a voucher freezing project for extra-large exchanges." Dou Yi was stunned and immediately flipped through the manual, and sure enough, it stated that the extra-large exchange included a voucher freezing project, meaning that once the extra-large exchange process started, those vouchers could no longer be circulated and had to be sealed and frozen. If I don't do this and I have prepared everything with the copper coins, but then you say you don't want to exchange anymore, wouldn't that be a waste of my efforts? Of course, since this is sealed, we have to find a third party, otherwise, it wouldn't be appropriate for the customers and the bank to keep the vouchers. Dou Yi also realized this issue and asked, "So, who is responsible for keeping the frozen vouchers?" Chapter 326. The money crisis almost vanished. The identity of the custodian of the frozen vouchers did not disappoint Dou Yi. Zhang Xiaochuan provided a 3-word answer, Wanqixi, which is equivalent to having the emperor as the intermediary. What more could he worry about? Although the incident of the voucher redemption ultimately turned out to be a joke, Dou Yi felt helpless. He had a sense of regret, as if he was always just a step away from success. And he felt that this was something he would never be able to overcome in his life. In the end, Dou Yi chose to exchange the vouchers for copper coins. He did this because he firmly believed that everything was just Zhang Xiaochuan's sleight of hand. 30 million yuan of copper coins would take decades to mint, even if all the coin workshops in the empire worked at full capacity. No matter how capable Zhang Xiaochuan was, it was impossible for him to mint 30 million yuan of copper coins in less than a year. Moreover, if we take a step back, even if Zhang Xiaochuan really had the ability to mint, he would still need copper. Therefore, he bet that Zhang Xiaochuan's gun was empty and that his treasury did not have that much copper. Even if he exchanged the vouchers for copper coins, it wouldn't be a loss. After all, Zhang Xiaochuan had purchased their land and mineral resources with the vouchers at prices above market value. Now, even with the handling fees, exchanging for copper coins would still be a big profit. As Dou Yi and his group departed, news spread that Dou Yi and the 9 major merchants, along with some families, had successfully exchanged for 30 million yuan of copper coins. The moment this news broke, it caused a sensation. Everyone exclaimed that the bank truly had money. At the same time, the rumors about the inability to exchange vouchers for copper coins were quickly dispelled, and the long lines outside the bank gradually dispersed. The 9 major merchants and some traders still prohibited the use of vouchers, but because the vouchers were convenient to use, other merchants who were not closely related to the 9 major merchants were still allowed to use them. The key was that they could exchange them for copper coins at any time, so the use of vouchers was no longer affected. Since the incident of the voucher redemption ended inconclusively, Dou Yi was also reprimanded by Li Linfu, who scolded him and the other major merchants for being useless. Although the 9 major merchants knew that it wasn't that they were incapable, but rather that they had been thoroughly outmaneuvered by Zhang Xiaochuan, no one dared to come forward to explain. Li Linfu instructed them to drop the matter and left, after which Dou Yi also became more reserved. Everything seemed to gradually return to calm, but in reality, a greater storm was about to arrive. In recent days, Zhang Xiaochuan's life had also returned to tranquility. He went to work on time every day, slacking off at work and fishing after hours, except for the early mornings required for court. Zhang Xiaochuan was very satisfied with everything. However, he knew that this peaceful life was only temporary and that he was still far from the laid-back life he aimed for. He was waiting for an event to brew. "Hubby," a voice called out, Waking Zhang Xiaochuan from his nap while fishing, rubbing his eyes, he asked, "What's wrong?" According to the latest intelligence gathered, the economic recession that my husband predicted is beginning to manifest, with prices of goods on the market starting to decline to varying degrees. You really are amazing. How did you know prices would drop? To explain how Zhang Xiaochuan knew, it's quite simple. It was deduced based on economic theories from later periods. The 30 million currency vouchers being sealed in the treasury of the Tang dynasty is no small matter. It's important to note that the annual tax revenue of the state is only about 30 million. But this currency is noted with double quotes because of the shortage of copper. 80 to 90% of the tax revenue consists of fabrics, grains, minerals, etc. In reality, the amount of copper coins received may only be around 2 to 3 million. This indicates that there is a severe shortage of currency in the market, which is a long-standing issue in ancient times. With 30 million being withdrawn at once, it's equivalent to removing more than half of the legitimate currency in the Tang dynasty, exacerbating the currency shortage. Without a currency-based economy, a recession is inevitable. The first sign of economic recession is a decline in purchasing power, leading to serious accumulation of goods and increased poverty. The most direct manifestation of this is falling prices. Zhang Xiaochuan smugly said to Xiaoya, "Of course. This is because I can calculate and predict." You are so impressive, truly worthy of being called a little celestial master. Seeing Xiaoya's adoring expression, Zhang Xiaochuan's vanity was greatly satisfied. "My dear, you are so sincere that I feel embarrassed to keep showing off. All right, go notify Teng Yi to get to work." Then he muttered to himself, "I didn't expect this to happen in less than half a month. It seems the currency shortage is even more serious than I imagined. I wonder how the court will react." Do Yi, listening to his confidant's report, felt reassured and said, "Good, it is indeed as I expected. The vouchers stimulated transactions in the market due to their convenience, but now our large-scale exchanges have caused a return to cumbersome copper coins and fabrics as currency, severely affecting trade. Moreover, Zhang Xiaochuan's so-called freezing and sealing has effectively withdrawn a large amount of currency from the market, making today's currency shortage inevitable." The confidant said, "Master, your strategic planning is unparalleled, and everything is under control. No need to flatter me. The market is currently short on currency. Fortunately, we inadvertently invented the machine loom. And now the large quantity of fabrics we produce can also fetch a good price. Indeed, if we had let these fabrics enter the market earlier, they would have lost their value, but now the timing is just right, thanks to your foresight." This praise, subtle as it was, pleased Do Yi greatly. And he smiled. "All right, arrange for this batch of fabrics to enter the market, but be discreet. We must not expose that it's me supplying them." "Understood. Erlang. Erlang." Teng Yi shouted as he rushed in from outside. "Erlang. Do Yi has started to supply goods." Zhang Xiaochuan replied calmly, "Yes. Supply as much as they need without letting them discover that we are the buyers. You seem to have something to say, just go ahead." "Well, Do Yi has an automatic loom, which produces fabrics very quickly, and we are buying them at normal prices. Doesn't that mean we are giving him money?" Zhang Xiaochuan smiled mysteriously and said, "So what if Do Yi has an automatic loom? The cost of the fabric material is right here. I'm offering such a high price not just to prevent him from selling to others, which would disrupt my plans amidst the cash shortage. Besides, these goods won't fetch a good price in the capital. We can transport them elsewhere to sell and earn some foreign currency. Isn't that more appealing? Your Majesty, a mysterious person is buying our fabric in large quantities. Whatever we offer, he wants, but he has one condition. Payment must be made with vouchers." Do Yi pondered for a moment and replied, "Vouchers are fine, but the price cannot be reduced by a single cent." Do Yi's trusted subordinate was dispatched. Originally, Do Yi's batch of fabric would have entered the market, serving as a medium of exchange to alleviate the cash shortage. However, due to Zhang Xiaochuan's intervention, it made no impact on the market, and the cash shortage continued to spread like a plague. Chapter 327. 2 Solutions from Wang Hao in the Nanhan Hall of Xiqing Palace. "Your Majesty, this is the current impact caused by the cash shortage." Li Linfu reported, and then stood by, waiting for Li Longji's instructions. Li Longji gestured for Li Linfu to take a seat before turning to the other ministers. "What do you all think about this matter?" How to think about it is indeed a profound question. Most of those present shared similar views. In the face of the cash shortage, it was basically the same old methods, restricting the outflow of currency, increasing coin minting, and imposing taxes on merchants to regulate their copper coins, with the court stepping in to implement macroeconomic control. However, these methods were merely conventional wisdom. Restricting outflow wouldn't truly contain it. Increasing coinage was impossible without copper, and any regulation was merely a drop in the bucket. Thus, these methods were like using painkillers for cancer. The pain might ease, but they did nothing for the underlying issue. The cash shortage had plagued feudal society for thousands of years, only resolved fundamentally with the advent of modern paper currency. So it was normal for them to be unable to come up with effective policies. At this moment, everyone hesitated to speak up, as the first person to lack originality would surely be criticized. The atmosphere was akin to a classroom where students feared being called on, with these prominent officials of the strongest empire in the 7th century appearing as shy schoolchildren. However, what was meant to happen still came to pass. Facing the silence, Li Longji began to call on individuals. Wang Aiqing, as the director of the Ministry of Revenue, what are your thoughts on this matter? Wang Hao's eyes immediately welled up with tears, thinking, out of all these chancellors, why do you have to ask me? who was only here to observe. My heart is heavy. In fact, the emperor's inquiry was not unreasonable. During Li Longji's reign, the 6 ministers were mainly chancellors or retired chancellors. So the actual power holders in the 6 ministries were mostly the directors. As the director of the Ministry of Revenue, it was reasonable for Wang Hao to be the first to respond to this question. I believe that to cure a disease, one must tackle its root cause. This cash shortage is severe, and we need to find its real source to resolve it. Upon hearing this, Li Longji felt encouraged and sat up straight, signaling Wang Hao to continue. Wang Hao continued, in recent years, with your majesty's civil and military achievements, the Tang dynasty has displayed a scene of prosperity. The common people now have some extra money to purchase daily necessities, and shops in the market are thriving more than ever. This year, commerce is particularly prosperous, with commercial taxes in the spring and summer increasing by 3 times compared to previous years, which reflects a plentiful currency and a flourishing market. However, everything changed after a certain incident. Li Longji quickly asked, "What happened? Your Majesty, are you aware of the recent uproar regarding the vouchers?" Li Longji nodded, indicating he was aware, and said, "Continue. Since the major merchant exchanged copper coins for the merchant's vouchers in Shuzhou, a large number of vouchers were withdrawn from the market. But the copper coins that should have been exchanged have not been delivered, leading to a currency shortage and a resulting cash crisis. Therefore, the vouchers are the root cause of this cash shortage, and I believe we should address this issue. There are 2 specific approaches. First, require Zhang Xiaochuan to advance the payment of the necessary copper coins. Second, completely ban the use of vouchers." Absolutely not. Wang Hao immediately opposed, appreciating Zhang Xiaochuan as his subordinate. He knew that Zhang Xiaochuan was not merely someone with peculiar skills, but a genuinely talented individual. He felt that Wang Hao's remarks were misleading. How could one only mention the downsides without acknowledging the benefits? Han Xiu continued, "Your Majesty, as Wang Shilang just mentioned, the previous market activity and significant increase in taxes were also driven by the indirect emergence of these vouchers, which stimulated transactions and market prosperity. How can we deny everything just because of a temporary problem? That would be a grave mistake." With Han Xiu speaking out, Wang Hao found it difficult to directly rebut him. At that moment, Li Linfu said, "The prosperity brought by the vouchers is merely an illusion, like flowers in a mirror or the moon in the water. It seems prosperous, but in reality, it is just the poor momentarily becoming wealthy, creating a false impression of prosperity through impulsive spending. I believe that if we pursue this temporary tax gain, it would be akin to drinking poison to quench thirst. I hope your Majesty will make a decision soon." Several senior officials aligned with Li Linfu immediately echoed, "Your Majesty, please ban the use of vouchers." Han Xiu could sense Li Linfu's manipulative rhetoric, but was unsure how to counter it. In a moment of frustration, he turned red. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Li Shizhi spoke up, "Your Majesty, I believe what Prime Minister Li said is somewhat biased." Li Longji also felt that the voucher issue wasn't as severe as portrayed. But Li Linfu's words seemed impeccable. Now that Li Shizhi had offered a differing opinion, Li Longji asked, "What is the perspective of the left chancellor?" Li Shizhi replied, "I can't articulate a clear argument, but I believe there is someone who can explain it clearly." "Who is that?" Naturally, it was Shuzhou's Marquis Zhang Xiaochuan. "Your Majesty, why not summon Marquis Zhang Xiaochuan to defend himself?" Li Longji nodded in agreement and immediately sent someone to call for Zhang Xiaochuan, who was working in the official office within the imperial city. It wasn't long before Zhang Xiaochuan arrived. After Zhang Xiaochuan bowed, Li Shizhi, as the interpreter, summarized the earlier discussion. Then Li Longji asked, "What is your rebuttal to this, Your Highness?" "I agree to ban the use of vouchers." Zhang Xiaochuan's words stunned everyone present, and Li Shizhi couldn't help but exclaim, "What did you just say?" Li Shizhi now wanted to take down Zhang Xiaochuan. "You finally fought for a chance to defend yourself? And how could you come in and make a fool of yourself?" Zhang Xiaochuan continued, "Your Majesty, everyone has not heard wrong. I am indeed in favor of banning the use of vouchers, and I also suggest prohibiting the use of fabric as currency." Li Linfu retorted, "The words of the Marquis of Shuzhou are utterly misguided. If we prohibit the use of fabric as currency, what should we do in case of large transactions without copper coins?" Zhang Xiaochuan shrugged, "It's simple. I just presented a set of coin minting production lines to your Majesty, which can produce as much in a day as all the mints in the court can produce in 3 months. Upon hearing this, the ministers whispered among themselves with doubtful attitudes, ultimately looking to the emperor for confirmation, to which Li Longji gave a reassuring nod. However, Li Linfu quickly found the crux of the issue and countered, "Even if you have the capability to mint coins, where will the court get the copper to mint them? If there's no copper, then why ban my vouchers? Your vouchers are a disaster. You are the real disaster. I still have my say, so shut up, you insolent brat." Li Linfu then looked at Li Longji with a grievance. "Please, Your Majesty, stand up for your minister." Although Li Longji was indifferent to Zhang Xiaochuan's nonsense, he still had to maintain the face of the chief minister, so he admonished, "The Marquis of Shuzhou must not be disrespectful. If you speak out of turn again, you will be punished." Understood. Chapter 328. Zhang Xiaochuan discusses the money shortage with Li Longji's warning. Zhang Xiaochuan dared not continue to speak carelessly, but instead began a serious analysis. "Your Majesty, let me first analyze the money shortage. Everyone, think about why this money shortage has occurred." Wang Hao replied, "This is naturally because there are not enough copper coins." That answer is not wrong. But what I actually want to say is why there are not enough copper coins. There are 3 reasons. First, copper coins are flowing out. Neighboring countries lack copper and coin minting skills, using our dynasty's copper coins as their primary currency in trade, leading to a large outflow of copper coins each time trade occurs. Second, the hoarding of copper coins. Due to the rampant circulation of counterfeit coins, once the official minted copper coins are circulated, they are often hoarded by wealthy families, reducing the circulation of copper coins. Third, the increase in trade demand. With the growth of national strength and population, commerce thrives and transactions become frequent, resulting in a greater demand for currency. What do you all think about these 3 points I mentioned? Han Xiu nodded in praise. Clear and to the point. Li Longji asked. Then according to the prince's view, how should the money shortage be addressed? Zhang Xiaochuan responded. Let me first discuss past strategies. They mostly targeted these 3 points, such as restricting the outflow of copper coins, prohibiting unauthorized melting of copper coins, and increasing the minting of copper coins by the court, etc. In my view, these methods only address the symptoms, not the root cause, and can only provide temporary relief. Li Longji did not expect Zhang Xiaochuan to have such a profound understanding of the money shortage. And it must be that he has unique governance strategies. Previously, it was mostly Wang Hua who managed the money shortage, seeing his efforts dismissed as worthless. He asked, then may I ask what insights the Marquis of Shuzhou has? Zhang Xiaochuan waved his hand. I don't have any profound theories on addressing the copper coin shortage. It's fundamentally an incurable disease. Unless copper coins cease to circulate, it will be very difficult to fundamentally resolve these issues, so I can't solve it either. Zhang Xiaochuan's words were so twisting that the emperor and the ministers were caught off guard. Li Linfu scolded, bold Marquis of Shuzhou. How dare you speak frivolously before His Majesty? This is treasonous behavior. You truly deserve death. I request Your Majesty to execute this person. Wait a minute. When did I speak frivolously before the throne? Zhang Xiaochuan replied. You have dismissed the previous methods of addressing the money shortage as worthless, only to turn around and claim you cannot solve it either. Is this not mocking His Majesty and the ministers? Zhang Xiaochuan explained. This is a misunderstanding. I meant that addressing the shortage of copper coins cannot resolve the money shortage issue. Please emphasize the copper coin shortage. Nonsense. A money shortage is a money shortage. Adding copper coin does not change anything. Li Linfu retorted. What I mean is, since the copper coin shortage cannot be managed, why don't we just abolish copper coins altogether? Li Linfu bent again and said, Your Majesty, I believe the Marquis of Shuzhou treats national affairs as a child's play, which is truly ungrateful to the imperial grace. I request that he be punished for his treasonous remarks. Han Xiu supported Zhang Xiaochuan, saying, I believe there is nothing wrong with what the Marquis of Shuzhou has said. I suggest he elaborate on how this new policy can be implemented before we reach a conclusion. Li Longji waved his hand at Li Linfu, indicating him to calm down and let Zhang Xiaochuan finish speaking. He would naturally provide an explanation. Li Linfu had no choice but to sit down reluctantly. Zhang Xiaochuan continued. Initially, transactions between people were based on barter, which later evolved into the use of fixed livestock, shells, and textiles. It was not until the extensive use of copper that true currency emerged. However, were livestock, shells, and textiles not currency in the past? Of course, they were also currency. What I want to say is that currency will change according to the evolution of the times. Currencies that do not meet the requirements of development should be eliminated. Therefore, I believe we should abolish copper as the base currency and establish a new monetary system to fundamentally resolve the money shortage. Zhang Xiaochuan's words were astonishing. Proposing a disruptive reform of the monetary system was no small matter. This was akin to a large-scale reform, but given the persistent embarrassment of the unresolved copper coin shortage, everyone was eager to hear about Zhang Xiaochuan's new monetary system, especially Li Longji, who had high expectations. Seeing the crowd silent, Zhang Xiaochuan continued, in fact, you have already seen the prototype of the new monetary system. The crowd exchanged glances, and some astute individuals began to guess. After a pause, Zhang Xiaochuan added, that's right. It's a voucher system. More accurately, it's paper currency. It would be backed by gold and silver reserves and issue paper currency. The benefits should be apparent to you all. A small piece of paper, the size of a palm, represents 100 coins, making it convenient to carry, and transporting large sums becomes very easy. Uniform denominations mean that the value is consistent, without worrying about the impact of inferior coins. Thirdly, it won't be limited by raw materials like copper. Although this is a special paper, it is still made from plants, and if a certain plant is in short supply, we can adjust the formula at any time. Finally, I want to say that previous attempts to address the money shortage were not entirely ineffective. Rather, our nation is becoming increasingly prosperous, and the demand for currency is growing year by year, especially with the establishment of industrial parks that have enriched a variety of goods. This will lead to explosive commercial growth in the coming years. The current commercial system or economic framework has undergone significant changes, making monetary reform an urgent matter. After Zhang Xiaochuan finished speaking, everyone fell into deep thought. He looked at the silent audience with great satisfaction. Surely these people are shocked by my new currency system. All my efforts to provoke a dramatic currency shortage and spread rumors about it being caused by vouchers were worth it, just for this moment. It seems the effect is quite good. The monetary reform is likely to be secured. After a moment of silence, Li Longji was also undecided. Although Zhang Xiaochuan's points were valid, the steps he proposed were quite bold. He invited the ministers present to express their opinions, and they began to speak up, forming two main camps. One side supported Zhang Xiaochuan, arguing that paper currency is convenient for carrying and transactions, and there is no fear of private production as long as there is ample supply. The opposing side, led by Li Linfu, raised concerns about the risks of such bold moves, hinting that Zhang Xiaochuan possessed the complete technology, and what if he decided to print money privately? Li Longji remained indecisive, finding it hard to reach a conclusion. This made Zhang Xiaochuan anxious. He couldn't understand why Li Longji, as the ruler, couldn't see the obvious benefits of the proposal and why he was so conflicted. Ultimately, the emperor decided to let everyone disperse and think it over, promising to discuss it again the next day. Zhang Xiaochuan felt frustrated. What seemed like a done deal now appeared uncertain, and he wished he could see into the emperor's mind to understand his reasoning. Chapter 329. Currency reform rejected after the ministers left the southern warm hall. Li Linfu quietly returned, not on his own initiative, but because the emperor had secretly summoned him. Li Longji said, "Now, it's just you and me. We can speak freely." Li Linfu understood that speaking freely meant he needed to articulate the outcome the emperor desired, which the emperor would then reluctantly agree to. Based on his understanding of Li Longji, he recognized that Zhang Xiaochuan's proposal was very tempting, yet Li Longji sensed the complexity of the matter. Preferring not to take risks with something beyond his control, he kept Li Linfu to devise a reasonable excuse to decline the proposal while also addressing the currency shortage issue. Li Linfu knew that it wasn't the right time to abolish the vouchers, so after careful consideration, he set a tone for the discussion by saying, "Your Majesty, I still believe this matter should not proceed." Li Longji nodded. "What is your reasoning?" Li Linfu explained. "The first reason is what I mentioned earlier. The Marquis of Suzhou possesses the complete technology for paper currency, and once it is established as an officially recognized currency, who can guarantee that there won't be private printing? This is far more serious than private minting of copper coins." Li Longji internally agreed, but replied, "How can you doubt the loyalty of the Marquis of Suzhou? Such words should not be repeated. Your Majesty, even if the Marquis is loyal now, times change, and human hearts are unpredictable. We cannot gamble the foundation of the state on one person's loyalty," Li Linfu cautioned. Li Longji sighed. "Though I recognize the Marquis's loyalty, your perspective is indeed wise. However, this is merely a concern and should not be counted as a definitive argument." Hearing what the minister just said, it seems there are other reasons. Li Linfu remarked. "The issue of currency is indeed vast. It can easily lead to far-reaching consequences. Even if the techniques for this paper currency are unique and cannot be replicated, a true reform of the currency system would undoubtedly be an unprecedented transformation. While it could benefit future generations greatly, a failure could shake the very foundation of the state." Li Longji had already accepted most of Li Linfu's words, but still pressed on. If this matter were to succeed, it would truly benefit the country and the people. "Is there truly no way for you to promote this?" Li Linfu bowed and expressed his apologies. "Your Majesty, it is my inadequacy that makes it difficult to implement this policy, and I dare say that no one in the court, civil or military, is capable of doing so. However, there is one candidate who might be suitable, although I regret to say." "Please go ahead," the emperor urged. "That would be the Marquis of Suzhou, who should be able to handle this matter. However, it is not that I doubt his abilities. Rather, he is just too young for such a nationwide reform. I believe he is still unprepared for such a heavy responsibility. If the Marquis of Suzhou were to gain experience in the court for several years, then this matter would certainly be feasible." As he spoke, he displayed a very regretful expression, showcasing his emotional depth and acting skills that would be wasted if not put to use in a play. Li Longji also expressed his regret. "Indeed, the Marquis of Suzhou is still too young, and it is a pity he lacks experience. But if we do not carry out a currency reform, how will we resolve this currency shortage?" Li Linfu then proposed a strategy he had already considered, or more accurately, a strategy the emperor wanted to hear. "I believe this currency shortage is caused by the redemption of vouchers. These vouchers are sealed, and copper coins cannot be immediately cashed in, effectively withdrawing 60 million coins from the market. Therefore, we should have Zhang Xiaochuan immediately redeem the copper coins, and the vouchers will then flow back into the market. This way, the currency shortage can be resolved." Li Longji replied, "If we allow these vouchers to circulate freely, does that mean we must acknowledge them as a form of currency? Not at all. The court can allow them to circulate freely, maintaining the status quo to fulfill their role in compensating for the currency shortage, and the court also possesses the power to abolish them at any time." "That sounds excellent. We can avoid a sweeping reform while solving the currency shortage issue. You are indeed talented. Your Majesty is too kind." The next day, the emperor summoned the important ministers again to discuss the currency shortage. He naturally referenced the strategy proposed by Li Linfu, stating that they would temporarily not consider currency reform and that the court would neither acknowledge nor deny the current status of the vouchers, while also demanding Zhang Xiaochuan to immediately redeem the copper coins. The ministers generally agreed with the emperor's strategy. Fortunately, someone took Zhang Xiaochuan's situation into account. This person was Han Xiu. He pointed out that producing such a large amount of copper coins at once would be a very difficult task and requested the emperor to give Zhang Xiaochuan some time to ease the situation. In the end, the emperor agreed to pass on this request to Zhang Xiaochuan for confirmation, but emphasized that early redemption was inevitable, as it had only been a month since the vouchers were exchanged for copper coins, and the market was already in turmoil. Waiting for 3 months would be untenable. With that, everyone had no objections, and the matter was settled. After the gathering, Zhang Xiaochuan was summoned to the palace. On his way, Zhang Xiaochuan was quite excited, speculating that his proposal for currency reform must have been approved. Being summoned to the palace at this time surely meant he would be appointed to a position, though he was uncertain whether he would be the main person responsible or assisting others in the reform. With his current qualifications, it seems more likely that he would assist others. If the currency reform is completed, combined with the explosion of goods brought about by industrial rise, the economic system of the Tang dynasty will surely undergo earth-shattering changes. This would provide an opportunity to push forward a wave of social reform to change the class system, and then, in conjunction with his own technological advancements, initiate a second wave of technological innovation. Zhang Xiaochuan was lost in thoughts of the future as he excitedly arrived at the South Sun Hall. When the emperor announced that there would be no reforms, Zhang Xiaochuan's heart sank to the bottom. He clenched his fists, his nails digging into his flesh. At that moment, he was nearly driven to madness, screaming inwardly, "Why? Why? Why?" With the insight of the emperor and the high officials, how could they not see the benefits of implementing paper currency? Why not push for reform? In that instant, Zhang Xiaochuan wished he could confront Li Longji directly. He felt that everything was in vain. He wanted to preserve the culture and pride of the Tang dynasty and then use technology to change the world. To this end, he was even willing to unreservedly offer advanced weaponry to the court, which would mean revealing everything to the Tang dynasty. But why did it still fail? Were the officials truly blind and foolish? Perhaps it was indeed necessary to tear everything down and rebuild. Zhang Xiaochuan thought to himself. His hand unconsciously moved towards the jade pendant that would activate the emergency plan. With the fully automatic rifles, machine guns, rocket launchers, howitzers, armored vehicles, and fighter jets he had already produced, he could take on the official army of the Tang dynasty, which only had semi-automatic rifles and lacked even half the ammunition and incomplete mortars. The odds would be similar to using advanced weaponry against cold weapons. Just at that critical moment, Zhang Xiaochuan suddenly felt he heard the phrase Wuliang Tianzuan, and his mind became one with a sense of effortless clarity. Then, a flicker of clarity emerged from the brink of collapse. Zhang Xiaochuan was certain that this phrase was not something he truly heard, but rather a feeling that was indescribable. In any case, he could think normally now. If he were to overthrow the court, his current forces were not sufficient to manage the entire Tang dynasty. It would only result in a chaotic court, with ordinary people suffering the consequences. To avoid unnecessary bloodshed, he needed to proceed gradually and endure for the time being. Once he understood this, his hearing returned to normal, and he could hear the calls. Lord of Shuzhou. Lord of Shuzhou.